Chapter 1042 Legendary Tier Lord Talent. The Lost Heart of the Sea God. Regal Inheritance of the Thousand Seas. After he split into two clones, Zhou discovered that his king's treasure box had become a spatial treasure shared by the three of them. He could store items inside, and so could Zhou Fight and Zhou Zheng. However, as the main body, Zhou naturally had some privileges. For example, he could unilaterally close the two clones' king's treasure box, or he could only allow the two clones to use a portion of the king's treasure box's space and items. Or he could use the king's treasure box to transmit items to the two clones, allowing the king's treasure box to have a function similar to an item transfer station. Therefore, Zhou could naturally obtain the legendary tier Lord Talent Sphere that Zhou Fight had stored in the king's treasure box. He looked at the Lord Talent Sphere. An item information notification appeared. Treasure name: Lord Talent Sphere. Lost Heart of the Sea God. Treasure grade: Legendary tier, treasure effect. After absorbing it, the Lord will have the legendary tier Lord Talent, the Lost Heart of the Sea God. Treasure description: a Lord Talent Sphere purified by the Supreme Will. You can obtain a legendary tier Lord Talent after absorbing it. The Lost Heart of the Sea God? A smile appeared on Zhou's face. It's indeed a Lord Talent in the development of the sea. It's the same type of Lord Talent as its previous owner. Could the Demon Flood Dragon Sea Ship civilization be established because of this Lord Talent? This thought suddenly appeared in his mind. Then the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. According to the information sent by Wu Tu, before this ruler of the empire ascended to the throne, the Demon Flood Dragon race was actually not a very powerful race on the sea. However, the Demon Flood Dragon clan's naval military forces began to develop by leaps and bounds after the ruler of the empire ascended to the throne. In less than 10,000 years, their maritime military strength had developed to the point of being ranked in the top 1,000 among all the people of foreign races that had empire-level lords. Such leaps and bounds of improvement could not be explained by just one sentence. There must be a powerful force supporting the development of the Demon Flood Dragon race to reach this level. From the looks of it, this power should be the epic tier Lord Talent of the ruler of the empire. Zhou shook his head and halted thinking about it. He chose to absorb the legendary tier Lord Talent Sphere. The next second, this legendary tier Lord Talent Sphere immediately turned into countless golden light spots and surged into his glabella. Zhou closed his eyes. A moment later, he reopened his eyes again after some time. Then, he immediately opened his Lord's personal information. A new update emerged in his Lord Talent column. A new word, Lost Sea God's Heart Legendary Tier, appeared. The 34th Lord Talent. Zhou bowed slightly. Then he opened the details of this talent. Lord Talent. Lost Heart of the Sea God Legendary Tier. Heart of the Sea God. Your territory will have a Lord Talent exclusive building, Lost Heart of the Sea God. When lords and their forces went out to hunt fog monsters, they would encounter a very small chance of dropping Sea God Civilization Inheritance Fragment. By offering the fragment of the Sea God Civilization's inheritance to the Heart of the Sea God, you can unlock the Sea God Civilization's exclusive soldier type, the Sea God Civilization's exclusive life profession, the Sea God Civilization's exclusive equipment, the Sea God Civilization's exclusive building blueprint, the Sea God Civilization's specialty materials, the Sea God Civilization's specialty potion formula, the Sea God Civilization's exclusive battleship blueprint, the Sea God Civilization's recruitment books, and a series of other specialty tools of the Sea God Civilization. The current Lost Heart of the Sea God has unlocked the Civilization Inheritance Ship, Barracuda I-Type Clipper Blueprint, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, Black Light Jellyfish I-Type Submarine Blueprint, Black Iron Tier Intermediate Grade, Ice Spear Devil Shark Battleship Blueprint, Black Iron Tier Advanced Grade, Flying Osprey I-Type Triaquatic Ship Blueprint, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade, Locked. Profession, Experienced Captain, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, First Mate, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, who is good at deck work. Second Mate, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, who is good at driving. Third Mate, Black Iron Tier Elementary Grade, who is good at sailing. mooring, life-saving and firefighting equipment management, ship doctor, Black Iron Tier elementary grade. Who is good at basic disease treatment, ocean treasure-seeking master, Black Iron Tier advanced grade. Who is good at searching for ordinary treasures. Equipment, elemental compass, Black Iron Tier. 100-meter deep diving suit, Black Iron Tier. Spirit fish surfboard, Black Iron Tier. Underwater acceleration machine, Black Iron Tier. Ocean body attribute monitoring watch, Black Iron Tier. Stab-resistant suit, Black Iron Tier. Solar energy converting energy shield unlocked. Powerboat paddle unlocked. Potion. Sea King Beast level warship, unlocked under special conditions. Sea God's blessing, unlocked under special conditions. Sea God descends, unlocked under special conditions. Lord Talent Notification 1. After collecting all the fragments of the Sea God civilization's inheritance, this Lord Talent will automatically advance to mythical tier. The only Lord Talent, Lord of the Seas. The Lord Talent will automatically inherit the Master God tier inheritance, God Spirit inheritance of the Sea Regal. Lord Talent Notification 2. This Lord Talent cannot be upgraded with the Lord Talent Origin Crystal. I see. And it's a collection type Lord Talent. Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. This Lord Talent was a perfect match for his Lord Talent. If he emerged on an island at the beginning and became an ocean lord, with this talent and the Lord Talent with a 100% drop rate, his development speed would probably not be inferior to his current development speed. Ship, equipment, potions, professions, Sea King Beast level battleships, Sea God's blessing, Sea God's construction building blueprint, Sea Miracle building blueprint, Sea God's blessing. There are so many types. I now have the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea, which covers an area of 700 billion square kilometers. I can use this Lord Talent to develop it. The more than 600 trillion Demon Flood Dragon race members, and more than trio billion Demon Flood Dragon race soldiers, who were instigated by me are the best developers. The development of the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea in my hands will not be inferior to the Holy Flood Dragon Empire. In fact, with this higher level of Lord Talent, I can completely develop the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea into the top 500, or even the top 100. Zhou's eyes were filled with ambition, and when he reached the end, his gaze suddenly focused. After collecting all the fragments of the Sea God civilization's inheritance, I can actually acquire a Master God level inheritance, Infinite Sea Regal, while upgrading to mythical tier, only Lord Talent? Zhou was pleasantly surprised. The legacy of a regal? Is he a regal like me? The Master God tier inheritance of the Lord's nomological path? He gazed excited. If it was really the main God tier inheritance of the Lord's law path, then he, the Lord's law God Spirit, was equivalent to having a senior guiding him on the God Spirit path. The benefits to his path as a God Spirit were self-evident. I must develop this Lord Talent well. Zhou made his decision. It seemed that he had to develop the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea vigorously in the future. In addition, he had to search for other seas. Different oceans might drop more types of Sea God civilization legacy fragments. This might increase the speed of developing this Lord Talent. Many thoughts flashed across Zhou's mind. In the end, he suppressed it. He had to take it slow. There was no need for him to be so anxious. Chapter 1043 The Total Area of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Seeing the heart of the Sea God, Zhou thought for a moment, and still sent someone to call Zheng Yuanqi over. Then, he told him about the development of marine civilization. Furthermore, he also told him about the lost heart of the Sea God. However, he did not say that this was his Lord Talent. He only said that he had obtained a special building called the Heart of the Sea God. The inheritance of the Sea God civilization could be obtained from the Heart of the Sea God. His Majesty was right to plan ahead. The higher continent not only has land, but also a vast ocean. I even heard that outside the myriad worlds, there are legendary seas like the Chaos Sea and the Sea of Illusions. When traveling in those special seas, you also need to drive special boats to enter and exit there normally. His Majesty will definitely leave the high continent in the future to fight for supremacy in the myriad worlds. Our territory really can't have any shortcomings in this aspect. After I return, I'll immediately tell the officials about this and let them pay attention to the development of our maritime power. With that magical heart of the sea god, I'm sure we won't encounter too many difficulties when we do this. Zheng Yuanqi said solemnly. Zhou nodded. Your Majesty, where is the heart of the sea god now? Zheng Yuanqi asked curiously. Come with me. Zhou smiled when he heard that. Then with a thought, the two of them suddenly disappeared from the spot. Jade Sun Park. This used to be the largest park in the Blazing Sun capital. At that time, it occupied more than 10,000 square kilometers. However, with the rapid expansion of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, the area of the Blazing Sun Kingdom alone had reached an astonishing 10 billion square kilometers. The entire Blazing Sun Kingdom had already reached 2.8 trillion square kilometers after including the Fire Cry human race's territory, the Moon Demon race's territory, the Demon Flood Dragon race's territory, and the scattered territories that they had conquered recently. According to the conversion of 1 trillion to one capital city, this meant that the total area of the Blazing Sun Kingdom had already reached 2.8 square kilometers. However, even with such a huge territory, it was only an inconspicuous little thing on the high continent. From this, it could be seen how large the high continent was. Speaking of which, now that the Blazing Sun Kingdom's territory had reached such a level, a large park like Jade Sun Park, that once occupied more than 10,000 square kilometers, had become a small park. Fortunately, Jade Sun Park had also undergone renovation later on. Now it covers an area of 1 million square kilometers. Even if it was a huge dragon with extremely fast flying speed, it could still play here and not feel bored. There were more than 100 such parks in the capital. Therefore, Jade Sun Park was not eye-catching among the 100 parks. Even so, there was a lot of traffic here every day as Jade Sun Park was an old park that the capital's subjects were familiar with. Even though it was already late, there were still a large number of subjects of various races playing, selling snacks, exercising, and dancing in the square outside the park. Most of them were naturally humans. Other than them, there were also the Wood Elves, the Volcano Goblins, the Fire Cry human race, the Bear race, the Ox Demon clan, the Misty Monster clan, the Moon Demon clan, the Elven clan, all kinds of life forms of various races gathered here. Even though their appearances and bloodlines were different, everyone got along very well and rarely saw any fights. On a flat tree-lined path, Zhou and Zheng Yuanqi walked among them. Neither of them changed their appearances, but the pedestrians passing by did not seem to notice them. They were all chatting and laughing as they did their own things. Zhou looked at the peaceful scene of the subjects getting along harmoniously and smiled. This was the reason why he was doing his best to protect this pure land. It's the ethnic integration policy that His Majesty has always encouraged that has resulted in this beautiful scene of the subjects living in harmony. When Zheng Yuanqi saw the change in His Majesty's expression, he immediately praised him sincerely. Zhou grinned and did not say anything. Indeed, he had always urged the various races to integrate, seek common ground, and live in harmony. However, if not for the unlimited resurrection abilities of the peaceful times and the safeguard of the goddess of life, it would probably be very difficult to realize this scene. They were all exchanged with a huge amount of faith divine crystals. Zhou sighed inwardly. Thankfully, he was willing to pay such a price. Moreover, when peace was truly achieved in the future, and there were no more wars, when the long years of peace passed, the ancient hatred of their ancestors would slowly become an ancient story recorded in history books. At that time, even if the juniors didn't forget the hatred of their ancestors, they probably wouldn't fight again. Instead, they would use other methods to humiliate and defeat the enemy country. For example, competing in sportsmanship, morals, scientific research achievements, and productivity. When the time comes, even without the peaceful times and the faith divine crystals that could revive lives, peace should be able to continue. As for the bloody and cruel war, it was enough for their generation to experience it. Just as he had uttered to the ministers, the war started with them and ended with them. Prime Minister, I hope that one day in the future, not only our blazing sun kingdom, but the entire high continent, and even the entire myriad worlds will be able to accomplish this scene. It can even exceed what I, and all our subjects can do now. Zhou asked. Such a future needs His Majesty's leadership to create it. Only His Majesty can create such a future. Zheng Yuanqi uttered solemnly. Zhou smiled. A great man once uttered that talents emerge from every generation, and each leader will be outstanding for hundreds of years. After this king, there might be people who exceed me, he said. But there are always some life forms that have experienced the ancient era. But there are still no life forms that can compare to them, right? Zheng Yuanqi retorted, which was rare. His Majesty was such a person in his heart. Zhou did not refute. What he uttered did make sense. It was just like how there was only one poetry immortal and one poetry sage in ancient China. For thousands of years, who dared to say that they had surpassed the poetic immortal and poetic sage? The two of them chatted and laughed along the way until they finally arrived at a clear lake. Beside it was a stone tablet with the words Jumping Fish Lake engraved on it. Zhou glanced at the lake tablet before looking at the center of the lake. In the center of the lake, there was 100-meter-tall blue gem floating. It was sparkling and translucent, and its surface emitted a sparkling blue light. It actually had a holy and inviolable noble aura, as if it was the emperor of all gems. Many pedestrians stopped in their tracks and admired the blue gem from afar. They discussed the sapphire curiously. When did this gemstone appear? It looks so beautiful. I don't know either, but it's probably a new landmark building built by the National Construction Division for the Jumping Fish Lake, right? TSK. Those kingdom architects really put in a lot of effort. Not bad. In the future, when I fish here, I can admire it to pass the time. This gem is not an ordinary item. I'm a diamond-level martial artist. After standing here for a while, I actually feel much lighter. Me too. I also feel that my mental fatigue has eased a lot. The subjects discovered the magicalness of this sapphire and discussed it in surprise. Even so, none of them were greedy for this sapphire. Everyone lived a rich life and had noble morals after all. In addition, they were knowledgeable and had more or less collected some treasures at home. Even though this sea blue gemstone had some nourishing effects on the human body, to the subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, it was only so. They didn't deserve to violate their moral conscience and the laws of the kingdom to commit such a criminal act. In the distance, Your Majesty, could that be? Zheng Yuanqi pointed at the sea blue gem in surprise. That's the lost heart of the sea god. Zhou nodded slightly. Chapter 1044 Arrangements and Old Friends. Even though the fish-jumping lake wasn't the largest lake in the Blazing Sun Kingdom, it had the most variety of aquatic creatures. Every day, a large number of fishermen would be attracted to the lake to fish. The heart of the ocean might have sensed this and appeared in such a place. With a thought, he recalled the lost heart of the sea god back into his hand and shrunk it to the size of a fist. Zhou did not do anything with it being where it had originally been. Instead, he placed a legendary tier treasure called the Heavenly Water Sea Stone that he had obtained from the Demon Flood Dragon Race's Empire's treasury. Not only did this Heavenly Water Sea Stone look almost identical to the lost heart of the sea god, with this Heavenly Water Sea Stone, people who had seen the lost heart of the sea god could basically not tell the difference. It could even benefit the fishermen. Zhou looked at the lost heart of the sea god and handed it to Zheng Yuanqi. Your Majesty, what are you? Zheng Yuanqi immediately accepted it with both hands. It's best to place this lost heart of the sea god in the sea. Bring it to the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea tomorrow, and settle it in the Sacred Flood Dragon Emperor Palace there. Zhou asked. Yes, Your Majesty. I will definitely send it safely to the Demon Flood Dragon Sacred Sea. There will definitely be no accidents. Zheng Yuanqi said solemnly. This was the first time he had taken over such a precious treasure. There will be no accidents. Zhou waved his hand. This lost heart of the sea god originated from his lord talent. It was equivalent to his intrinsic item. No matter where it was lost, He could summon it back from billions of miles away with a thought. Unless there were experts at the Master God tier level, or above who forcefully plundered it. Otherwise, it was almost impossible to lose it. And in the Supreme Continent, which Master God tier could attack without restraint. Therefore, he wasn't worried about losing the heart of the sea god at all. After that, Zhou Zhou and Zheng Yuanqi chatted for a while about the development of the lost heart of the ocean. Then Zheng Yuanqi bade farewell and left. On the other hand, Zhou Zhou did not leave immediately. Instead, he leisurely walked to the side of the group of fishing men and sat down. Then, he casually took out a fishing rod that was completely white jade with the patterns of the holy flood dragon carved on the surface from his king's treasure box. Then, he casually hung a bait he had obtained from the Holy Flood Dragon Empire's treasury and casually threw the line into the lake. When the surrounding people saw his actions, they clicked their tongues in wonder and laughed softly. "Young man, you must be a novice. Your throwing posture is too inappropriate. You'll scare away the surrounding fish." "That's right. Why don't I teach you how to fish? Anyway, I shouldn't be able to catch any fish in the short term. Then let me tell you, where can you find good bait to sell? Choosing bait is a skill. The rarer the fish, the more you have to use different bait. I know a fishing master. The bait she makes has even caught an epic tier 5 colored carp. Then he'll tell you where there's a fish market nearby. If you can't catch fish, you can buy a few from the fish market. I guarantee that your family will be happy." There were people of all ages fishing, and they were very enthusiastic. Seeing that Zhou Zhou was a newcomer, they all proposed to help. "Thank you for your kindness, but I'm only here to experience fishing. I still have something to do at home. I'll go back in a while." Zhou Zhou declined their help. Everyone came to a realization and returned to their fishing spots while chatting and laughing. At this moment, a middle-aged uncle sitting beside Zhou Zhou's eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he immediately pulled the fishing rod and quickly caught a dark black fish. A white platinum tier elementary grade black spirit fish? "Old fish, you're quite lucky today." When the surrounding fishers saw that Yu Huan had caught this fish, they were all surprised. "Go away, what luck? It's all about strength. The strength of the champion, the king of fish, do you understand?" Yu Huan scolded jokingly. And at that moment, he looked at Zhou Zhou. With a glance he was stunned. You're. He was so excited that he stammered. "I'm Zhou Yang. Uncle Yu, long time no see." Zhou Zhou spoke first. Mr. Zhou, why are you here?" Yu Huan's brain worked even faster. He immediately understood that His Majesty did not want to expose his identity. He immediately reacted and forced himself to calm down. However, he was still very excited. "I was just passing by, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect to see you." Zhou Zhou smiled. Then, his gaze landed on the fishing rod in his hand. "Golden bamboo and jade rod? I see your precious fishing rod again. Haha, I can throw everything else away, but I can't lose this fishing rod." Yu Huan smiled smugly. Zhou Zhou nodded and asked, "Where's your son? Is he married now?" "Shit, stop talking. I get angry when you talk about it." Yu Huan could not help but feel helpless and troubled. "The last time I obtained 2 diamond tier Miss Cores from you, I wanted to immediately find a good daughter-in-law for my son Yu Wang. Unexpectedly, my unfilial son didn't like the woman after going on a few blind dates in a row. Then his mother and I arranged a few more blind dates for him, but this kid actually ran away. Before he left a letter saying that he wanted to see the great rivers and mountains of the country. In the famous mountains and rivers of the country, he wanted to catch all kinds of rare precious fish and become a fish god. Then he fled with his fishing rod. Don't you think this is infuriating? Become a fish god. I don't think he'll be taken away by the demons in the wild." Zhou Zhou listened quietly. He could hear the worry in the man's voice. He did a divination in his heart, and then a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Then, he said to Yu Huan, "Don't worry. Your son Yu Wang will have his own fortuitous encounters. He will fulfill his words." "What?" Yu Huan was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Then, he came back to his senses and said excitedly, "Your Majesty, tell me, my son really knows how to do what he says?" "I won't lie to you," Zhou Zhou asked. He had just calculated in his heart that Yu Huan would eventually become a god spirit in the Tao of fishing. That was why he said that. Thank you for your advice, Your Majesty. Thank you for your advice. As expected of my son, he's indeed promising in the future. Yu Huan naturally believed His Majesty's words. Who was His Majesty? That existed the common people's regal who shook the high continent, and even the myriad worlds. How could he be lying? Zhou nodded. Then he realized that there was something wrong with the fishing rod. He raised it gently, and saw a divine fish that was golden in color, and surrounded by golden clouds. Zhou nodded. Then he realized that there existed something wrong with the fishing rod. He raised it gently and saw a divine fish that was golden in color and surrounded by golden clouds. He also has the god spirit bloodline in his body. It's okay. Zhou didn't mind. He threw it into the king's treasure box and uttered goodbye to Yu Huan before turning to leave. All that existed departed was the silence of the fishing men. Am I seeing things? That does seem to be a legendary tier advanced grade fish, yellow gold divine fish? Isn't he a novice? It must be a beginner's benefit. It must be a beginner's benefit. The fishermen gazed like they couldn't accept reality. Only Yu Huan existed stunned for a moment. Then he gazed at their dejected expressions and smiled foolishly. His smile was filled with pride. Chapter 1045 Shadow Races Summoning. Trillions of soldiers and 100 true god tiers about to attack. As soon as Zhou returned to the center of the capital, he saw a young general who had been waiting for a long time walking over quickly. It was Wu Tuesday. Greetings, Your Majesty. I have the latest information about the Shadow Clan to report to His Majesty. Wu Tu said respectfully. Let's go to the palace first. Zhou said. Then with a thought, he saw Wu Tu and him instantly disappear. The next second, Wu Tu and him appeared in the meeting hall of Blazing Sun Palace. Zhou sat on the throne and looked at the respectful Wu Tu below. Speak. Yes, Your Majesty. Wu Tu nodded and said solemnly. Based on what I know so far. After the Shadow Race learned that the Demon Flood Dragon race had been destroyed by us, they felt that this was a good opportunity to use this as an excuse to attack us. Then, they immediately contacted all their Lord faction allies, including the people of foreign races, behind the other Empire-level Lord factions, that stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world, and all the other people of foreign races that had nothing to do with this matter, but were allies with the Shadow Race. Currently, he has contacted as many as 21 people of foreign races with Empire-level Lord factions. These people of foreign races are showing signs of sending troops to the Shadow Race. In 3 days, there should be trillions of people of foreign race soldiers, and nearly 100 true god tier, from the people of foreign races, gathered in the Shadow Race. Then, they will immediately attack us. Your Majesty, we should have made preparations. 1 trillion soldiers and 100 true god tiers. That's a lot. This king only deliberately revealed some flaws. These guys seized this flaw and attacked this king crazily. Zhou nodded and said with a smile. This time, Uriel has become a small character. Wu Tu saw that His Majesty did not look nervous at all. While he heaved a sigh of relief, he could not help but admire His Majesty even more. He was shocked when he received this information previously. This was 1 trillion soldiers, and 100 true god tiers after all. A weaker beginner-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction was almost such a faction. If it weren't for the fact that he had seen many things with His Majesty, and was extremely loyal, even reaching the level of a fanatic believer, if it were anyone else, they would probably have thought of running away when they heard this news. But now that he saw that His Majesty wasn't anxious at all, he wasn't nervous anymore. This was the confidence that an undefeatable emperor brought to his subordinates. Your Majesty, this is the specific information. After Wu Tu operated his personal terminal, he listed out the specific details of the people of foreign races who had come to help the Shadow Race, as well as the specific information about the true god tier. At a glance, it was incomparably detailed. He even mentioned the deeds, personalities, abilities, weaknesses and strategies to conquer the true god tiers of the people of foreign races. Zhou quickly browsed through it, and memorized all the information. He could not help but marvel at the richness and depth of the content. Then, he looked at Wu Tu, who still looked like a teenager, and the admiration in his eyes intensified. Wu Tu, even though you are young, you have never disappointed me. As expected, this king did not choose the wrong person. Zhou praised. You flatter me, Your Majesty. If Your Majesty hadn't thought highly of me back then, if I were lucky, I might still be a low-level cartographer and do work that only adult cartographers can do. Then, I would earn a small income to support myself and my family. If I'm unlucky, I'm afraid I'll have died in this chaotic world. It's His Majesty's wisdom that allowed an underage child like me to have all of this. It's only my duty to do my job well. I'm willing to do my best for Your Majesty. Wu Tu's tone revealed his heartfelt gratitude. He was only a 15-year-old teenager now. He was not considered an adult on the cerulean planet, or among the humans on the high continent. But not only had he become the youngest legion commander among the 6 legions of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, furthermore, he had become a god spirit. In his profession, he could fulfill his dream of becoming the strongest cartographer in the supreme continent. His family was also living very happily now. There was no need to worry about life at all. Wu Tu understood that all of this was given to him by His Majesty. It was His Majesty who had changed his life and given him a new direction in life. Therefore, what he uttered was completely sincere. Even if His Majesty wanted him to die, he would not hesitate to do so. Zhou smiled. He looked at the thread of faith on the other party. Now Wu Tu was already a fanatic believer, but he was lacking in terms of laws. If he could comprehend the genuine meaning of laws from his own laws, it might not be impossible for his faith to undergo a qualitative change. Not only would it make his future path as a god spirit smoother, but he could also advance from a fanatic believer to a Holy Spirit tier believer in the future. He idea for a moment and took out a jade slip. He instantly compiled his understanding of Wu Tu's own nomological path into an inheritance and handed it to Wu Tuesday. He was a Lord Law God Spirit, and he also had a heaven-defying law skill like King that could control all the abilities and laws under his command. Therefore, he was naturally very familiar with Wu Tu's nomological path. With the combination of the two, it was naturally not a problem to give Wu Tu an inheritance that could make a qualitative change in his nomological path and faith. Wu Tuesday, this is a law inheritance that this king specially tailored according to my understanding of your law path. Take it back and study it when you have time. If you can comprehend the inheritance I gave you, coupled with the true God tier God spirit inheritance in your body, not to mention a true God, even a master God tier, will have a chance to advance in the future. Zhou then threw it to Wu Tuesday. Wu Tu hurriedly reached out to catch it, and was immediately stunned when he heard this. Then, he immediately became extremely excited. With the military merits he had accumulated, he had naturally exchanged for a top-notch Earth Elemental True God Tier's Book of the God Spirit, and used it early. However, he had never idea that he would have the chance to become a Master God Tier in the future. That was a Master God Tier. Supreme God Realm experts, and even stronger experts were limited by the Supreme Will, and could not easily descend to the myriad worlds to attack. Master God Tier was the super expert of this world. But now, His Majesty was actually telling him that the inheritance in his hands could actually give him a chance to become a Master God Tier in the future. How could he not be excited? Moreover, this inheritance was actually personally created by His Majesty. How much did His Majesty value him? At this moment, Wu Tu's gratitude towards His Majesty was indescribable. Thank you for your gift, Your Majesty. I will not let Your Majesty down. I will comprehend the inheritance Your Majesty gave me as soon as possible. Wu Tu knelt on the ground, his voice resolute. Go on. Zhou smiled gently. Yes, Your Majesty. Wu Tu nodded and left. Not long after he left, Zhou also left the Blazing Sun Palace and returned to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Then, he came to the Night Temple not far from the royal capital. Then, he went straight to the primordial world through the Night Temple's spatial teleportation array. Then, he headed straight for the human base camp in the primordial world. Chapter 1046 Yellow Emperor recovers. Promoted to Patriarch of the Human Race, and Second Speaker. The Primordial World at the Mount Buzhou. Ever since the humans retreated to the Primordial World, this holy land of the Primordial World had become the base camp of the humans. Most of the upper echelons of the human race lived here. This was especially true for the true god tier of the human race. It was rare for all of them to live there. In fact, as the middle world, it was not a problem for the Primordial World to arrange their own training halls for the true god tiers of the human race. Many upper echelons of the human race didn't know why the Yellow Emperor and the other true god tier had to gather here. However, no one dared to casually ask about such matters that involved the speaker level. Therefore, everyone tacitly agreed that the true god tier lived here for a reason that could not be leaked. After Zhou Zhou arrived at Mount Buzhou, he looked at the mountain that was 50,000 kilometers tall in front of him, and could not help but be surprised. As expected of the heavenly pillar sacred mountain of the primordial world, legendary tier was formed from the backbone of the primordial world, and even Imperial Lord Pengu, after he used the Tao integration secret technique. Judging from the aura, the truth should be true. He nodded slightly, but even so, Buzhou Mountain had also experienced many hardships in the primordial world. There was even a catastrophe, such as the collapse of the heavenly pillar and the destruction of the earth dimension. Fortunately, this did not affect Imperial Lord Pangu's main body much. Or rather, as long as the primordial world was not completely destroyed and disappeared, Imperial Lord Pengu would be fine even if a true god tier allowed the primordial world to refine earth, water, wind, and fire again, and rebuild the primordial world. Otherwise, the gods who broke Mount Buzhou back then would probably have committed suicide in shame. As for why Zhou Zhou addressed Pengu as Imperial Lord Pengu now, it was because ever since Zhou Zhou obtained the title of Common People's Regal, the humans knew that the title had its own meaning. In order to prevent any misunderstandings, everyone unanimously used the honorifics of Regal and Emperor separately. Zhou Zhou took on the honorific title of Regal. As for Pengu, he actually had many titles such as Heaven-Splitting Holy God, Emperor Regal, Pan Master, and so on. Therefore, losing the title of Regal did not affect him much. Everyone unanimously decided that in the future, they would address Pengu as Imperial Lord or other honorific titles. It was just that they would not use the honorific title of Regal. Zhou Zhou naturally had no objections. As for Pengu, even if he was alive, he wouldn't care about such a trivial matter, let alone he, who was in a deep sleep. Hence, the matter was settled. Speaking of which, after Zhou Zhou arrived at Mount Buzhou, he immediately contacted by he and the other true god tiers of the human race, before heading to the Holy God Ancient Hall on Mount Buzhou in a low-key manner. This was a place that only the Holy God of the human race could come to. It was a holy land for the Holy God of the human race to discuss the strategic decisions of the human race. It was established during the Pengu era. Only existences at the level of the speaker of the human race could enter and discuss with the other true god tiers. When Zhou Zhou arrived, he saw that the other true god tiers were already waiting for him. Among them were Bai He, Patriarch Lu, and the Yellow Emperor who had appeared in his true body, Common People's Regal. The three gods stood up from their seats and expressed their respect to Zhou Zhou. Even though they were so polite, their faces were brimming with smiles that belonged to acquaintances. Especially the Yellow Emperor. He walked over and hugged Zhou Zhou before separating. Zhou Zhou looked at the current Yellow Emperor and smiled. "How's your recovery?" he asked. "Haha. After consuming the Master God tier elementary grade medicine you gave me, the poison of the heavenly demon true God tier, recovered in the blink of an eye. Moreover, it even restored my divine body and soul to their peak." A joyful smile appeared on the Yellow Emperor's face. "After experiencing so many ups and downs, I have a clearer understanding of my nomological path." A joyful smile appeared on the Yellow Emperor's face. "After experiencing so many ups and downs, I have a clearer understanding of my nomological path. I will soon be promoted to a true god tier advanced grade." He lamented inwardly. Who would have thought that not long ago, he had been poisoned and could only seal himself in the Xinyuan tomb. Now, Not only had his injuries recovered, but he also had the possibility of advancing to an advanced grade True God tier. The True God tier advanced grade, that was the level of Imperial Lord Pengu. Now he would be able to reach that level soon. Zhou, you saved my life, the Yellow Emperor said solemnly. If there's a need in the future, I, Ji Xinyuan, will definitely risk my life to help. It's serious. Zhou smiled. It was just a Master God tier elementary grade antidote. Any True God tier elementary grade antidote could be upgraded. He had at least 100 bottles of this potion in his hands. It was naturally nothing to give a bottle to the Yellow Emperor. However, the Yellow Emperor and the other True God tier didn't know about this. Upon hearing this, he immediately felt even more grateful to Zhou. By he and Patriarch Lu also thought even more highly of Zhou. He could even give out a Master God tier potion so easily, and even look like he didn't care, Patriarch Lu, and Bai he looked at each other and smiled. It was really a lucky thing to be friends with Zhou. He was really good to his own people. How's Imperial Lord Panga's recovery? Zhou did not talk much about this matter, and asked curiously. The last time, he handed the potions to the Yellow Emperor and the others. He had also specially left some Master God tier potions that could speed up the recovery of the sleeping Emperor Pangu. There was even no lack of Master God tier advanced grade potions. Emperor Pangu is also rapidly recovering. At the mention of this topic, the Yellow Emperor and the others smiled again. Bai he smiled and said, "If nothing goes wrong, when Your Excellency Yellow Emperor advances to the True God tier advanced grade, Imperial Lord Pangu should be able to end his Dao integration nomological secret technique and completely recover. He should be able to wake up and leave the primordial world. This is all thanks to the Master God tier potions you sent over Regal. Without those Master God tier potions, Imperial Lord Pangu wouldn't have recovered so quickly." Zhou nodded. This was the reason why he had taken out so many Master God tier level potions. He wanted to let Emperor Pangu recover faster. Otherwise, he could actually use a large number of True God tier potions to restore Imperial Lord Pangu to his original state. But that would take a long time. It had to be at least 10,000 years old. By then, Zhou would have grown to an unimaginable level. Why would he require Imperial Lord Panga's help? It was just some Master God tier potions, and Zhou did not lack them. He might as well take them out and let Emperor Pangu recover as soon as possible. The sooner Imperial Lord Pangu recovered to his peak, the more beneficial it would be for the current predicament of the human race. It might even allow the human race to leave the primordial world as soon as possible and appear on the high continent again. After all, he was a super abnormal expert who could comprehend a Master God tier level nomological secret technique at the True God tier level. Zhou was even suspicious. When Pangu returned to his peak state and gave he a full set of True God tier divine artifacts, he would be able to fight against a clan-protecting expert who had just entered the Master God tier realm. If that was the case, it would be of great help to Zhou. Without further ado, Zhou stated directly, "I came this time to tell everyone that the conditions to revive the Buddha Lord are complete. Everyone, follow me to revive the Buddha Lord." Really? The three deities were overjoyed. Zhou nodded. "The Buddha Lord's intrinsic item, the Nirvana relic, is with me. Let's go now." The Yellow Emperor immediately said. Zhou affirmed and turned to leave. At this moment, the Yellow Emperor suddenly said, "Zhou." Zhou looked at him in confusion. The Yellow Emperor grinned and pointed at the second speaker's seat. "Now, be it in terms of strength or contribution to the human race, you have already reached the peak of the human race. In addition, you now control the territory of the human race on the high continent. You are already the true master of the human race in the myriad worlds. In the future, you'll take over my position as the patriarch of our human race, and the second speaker other than the first speaker, Imperial Lord Pangu. It's a unanimous decision after our internal discussions." The Yellow Emperor stated seriously. Zhou was stunned. He gazed at Bai He and Patriarch Lu, and realized that they were smiling and nodding at him. Their eyes were filled with agreement. Zhou pondered for a few seconds and nodded. Regarding today's scene, he was actually already prepared. There was no require for him to hypocritically decline. When the Yellow Emperor Bai He and Patriarch Lu saw this, they couldn't aid but reveal gratified smiles. Chapter 1047 Pseudo-Race Divine Artifact. Human Sovereign's Sacred Token. 9 True God-Tier Combat Strength. When the Yellow Emperor heard this, he immediately smiled happily. Then he said seriously, "Since the Patriarch is prepared to take over the position of the master of our human race, we will immediately prepare the Buzhou Mountain Sacrificial Meditation Scripture." This Buzhou Mountain Sacrificial Meditation Scripture is a ceremony specially prepared by our human race for the new Patriarch to ascend to the position of Patriarch of the human race. After we are ready, the Patriarch must come to Buzhou Mountain to participate and announce to all the human race in the entire high continent, and even the myriad worlds, that you have become our Patriarch. He'll be there. Zhou nodded and asked, "How long will it take to prepare?" The Buzhou Mountain Sacrificial Meditation Scripture is the most important racial ritual of our human race. Therefore, we will let the God spirits participate in the preparation process, including building a special sacrificial palace, the pilgrimage sacred platform, the Great Tao of Heaven prayer ceremony, the viewing square, the myriad world teleportation array, and the telepathic projection array. The Yellow Emperor stroked his beard and said after some thought, "The various measures and constructions will be completed in a month. However, before that, Patriarch, you will be able to exercise your authority as the Patriarch. For example, you can freely and unconditionally use the treasures, intelligence, resources, military forces, buildings, nomological secret techniques, and God spirit level experts in our human treasury. You can also activate the myriad world teleportation array and go to any human base in the myriad worlds. As long as that human base has a cross-border spatial teleportation array that is connected to the high continent, it will be fine. Moreover, Patriarch, if you see anyone from our human race, you can use your position as the human race's Patriarch to order them around. No matter what you ask them to do, you can do it. Even though this action of ours is a bit unlikable, this is the privilege of the human race's Patriarch. We also believe that the Patriarch that we have chosen will not use this privilege to wreak havoc." And the Yellow Emperor listed out the various rights of the human race's Patriarch. Because he had too much power, the Yellow Emperor gave Zhou a jade slip in the end, so that he could slowly understand it in the future. After Zhou took a rough look, he could not help but exclaim in his heart, "How is this the master of the human race? He was simply the overlord of the human race. He could do almost anything he wanted. Even if they did something evil, no one would ask why they did it. If you ask, I'm the Patriarch of the human race. I have my own reasons for doing this. Don't interfere with me." Becoming the Patriarch of the human race was simply allowing him to become the Patriarch of the entire human race. Even the meeting of the human race's parliament did not have any restrictions on the human race's Patriarch. The human race counselors only had the right to advise the human race Patriarch, but they did not have the right to stop him. How much trust did he have in the candidate for the human race's Patriarch to set up such a ridiculous authority? Zhou sighed inwardly. It seemed that both Imperial Lord Pengu and Yellow Emperor Xianyuan had earned the trust of many upper echelons of the human race. At this moment, the Yellow Emperor took out another chaotic-colored disc and handed it to Zhou. This is a pseudo-race divine artifact, human sovereign's sacred token, that we've forged with all the strength of the human race. Seeing this token is like seeing the Patriarch of the human clan. No matter which human, when faced with this human sovereign sacred badge, they will immediately understand that the person who possesses it is the human sovereign, the master of the human race, and the supreme ruler of the human race. No matter what request the human emperor makes, as long as the other party is a human or a life form with the bloodline of a human, they will try their best to satisfy the human emperor's request. The Yellow Emperor introduced solemnly, "Then if this human sovereign's sacred token falls into the hands of bad people, wouldn't it be a huge disaster?" Zhou raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard that. He looked at the human emperor's sacred token that was emitting a chaotic light with a serious expression. This item reminded him of the demon flood dragon race's divine artifact, Fire Cry Origin Core, that he had obtained not long ago. This item reminded him of the demon flood dragon race's divine artifact, Fire Cry Origin Core, that he had obtained not long ago. I don't think so. When the Yellow Emperor heard this, he grinned and shook his head. After all, this thing is a pseudo-race divine artifact forged after birth. If one has extremely strong willpower, they can still easily escape the impact of the human emperor's sacred token. Furthermore, this human sovereign's sacred token has its own spirituality. He will only acknowledge the human race patriarch that all members of our human council have acknowledged to possess and command it. If the patriarch of the inhuman race obtained the human sovereign's sacred token by chance, it would be useless. It might even be worse than a piece of scrap metal. The human emperor's sacred token seemed to have heard the Yellow Emperor's words. The entire token instantly vibrated for a moment, emitting dissatisfaction towards the human true god tiers present. Zhou and the others could not help but laugh. It's just a metaphor. The Yellow Emperor chuckled as if he was used to it. Only then did the human sovereign's sacred decree stop vibrating and quieten down again. I will properly use this human sovereign's sacred token and be the human clan leader. Zhou looked at the human emperor's sacred token in his hand and uttered seriously to Yellow Emperor, by he, and Patriarch Lu. He knew that the position of patriarch of the human race not only meant supreme power, but it also meant supreme responsibility. He would bear the responsibility and prove to everyone present that he was qualified to sit as the patriarch of the human race. He might even surpass Pangu and lead humanity to a new height. Of course we trust you. The Yellow Emperor and the others nodded seriously. It was precisely because of this that they was very assured to hand this position to Zhou. Zhou nodded and pondered for a moment before saying, "The Buzhou Mountain sacrificial meditation scripture will be done by my people. Yellow Emperor, just send some instructors over. My people are very good at building. If they do it, the working hours can be reduced by at least 100 times. He had the legendary Tier Lord talent, Super Construction Engineering 9, which could increase construction efficiency by 900 times. It was naturally most suitable to hand this job to him." The Yellow Emperor and the others were astonished. However, they didn't say anything, nor did they ask Zhou where his confidence came from. They directly uttered respectfully, "Yes, Patriarch." Zhou nodded and didn't say anything else. He left the primordial world with the three gods and returned to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. He headed for the shelter of the Goddess of Life. The Blazing Sun Kingdom, in the shelter of the Goddess of Life. When Zhou, Yellow Emperor, Patriarch Lu, and White River arrived, they saw that Carol Moeli had been waiting here with a group of high-level clergymen. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, leaders of the human race." Carol Moeli uttered respectfully to Zhou, and then politely to the human gods. Zhou nodded. When he looked at the Yellow Emperor and the others, he found that they were staring at Carol Moeli in a daze. Yet another true god tier. "By," he muttered. "Patriarch." Patriarch Lu gulped and looked at Zhou. He could not help but ask, "How many true god tiers do we have in the Blazing Sun Kingdom?" "There are still 5 true god tiers excluding me and her." Zhou pondered for a moment and said, facing the Yellow Emperor and the others, who were also human leaders, there was nothing to hide. However, if he, his 2 clones, and Carol Moeli, a true god tier that could only be hired, were included, there would be 9 true god tiers. When the Yellow Emperor and the others heard this, they were momentarily stunned and speechless. At the peak of the human race, when nothing had happened to Imperial Lord Pangu and the Buddha Lord, there were only 5 true god tiers in the entire human race. Yet now, you're telling me that your Blazing Sun Kingdom already has 5 true god tiers? And that's if you don't count yourself in? Patriarch, you're really scaring us every time we meet. The Yellow Emperor shook his head and grinned bitterly. By he and Patriarch Lu also nodded with complicated expressions. They had never seen a human lord faction develop at such a shocking speed. How long has it been? It was almost comparable to all the development results of the entire human race since its birth. Chapter 1048 The Goddess of Life Descends. Zhou smiled and did not say anything. We've brought enough resurrection items, and are preparing to revive the Buddha Lord. He looked at Carol Moeli and said, Yes, Your Majesty. The ritual has been completed. Please follow me with your resurrection items. Carol Moeli nodded, and led the three gods to the center of the shelter. In the center of the huge shelter, there were 10,000 priests, 10,000 clergymen, 10,000 nuns, and 100,000 holy knights of life. They formed a strange circular formation with an emerald green altar, and a statue of the goddess of life as the center. Everyone looked at the statue of the goddess of life in the center with a solemn and fanatical expression. At the same time, they chanted the classics of the goddess of life sect. The entire scene looked sacred and solemn. When Zhou and the others saw this, they stopped chatting and quietly came to the altar. Your Majesty, please place 500,000 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals, 500 True God Tier Intermediate Grade Divine Crystals, and the intrinsic items of the revived True God Tier on the revival altar. Carol Moeli whispered. Zhou nodded and waved his right hand. 500,000 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals, and 500 True God Tier Intermediate Grade Divine Crystals appeared on the altar out of thin air. Among them, 500,000 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals were especially eye-catching. They even piled up into a small mountain. The resplendent pure white faith holy light almost gathered into a pillar of faith that shot into the sky. The focused clerics couldn't help but view over and fall into a daze. How many Holy Spirit Tier believers had he killed to collect so many Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals? They weren't the only ones. This was also the first time Yellow Emperor and company had seen so many Faith Divine Crystals. They could not help but view at Zhou, wanting to ask a question. How many Holy Spirit Tier believers did you kill? Don't tell me you've already killed all the God spirits in the myriad worlds? Of course, they were only surprised for a moment. Naturally, they did not think that their guess was true. Otherwise, Zhou would have long become the enemy of the entire world. They pursued their lips and did not ask. They only felt that their new patriarch was more and more resourceful, as expected of the patriarch chosen by them. At the same time, Carol Moeli was also stunned by the 500,000 Holy Spirit Tier Faith Divine Crystals in front of her. In comparison, the 500 True God Tier Intermediate Grade Divine Crystals and the Buddha Lord relic that the Yellow Emperor and the others had sent over were not as eye-catching. However, he was already mentally prepared. He immediately adjusted his state. Then, after letting Zhou and the others temporarily retreat to the side, he began to preside over the resurrection ritual. He saw he kneeling on the ground, holding a strange tree root divine artifact that was yellow and emerald green. He was praying softly to the statue of the goddess of life in front of him. Even though his voice was very soft, with the help of the True God Tier divine power, his voice still reached everyone's ears. The absolute ruler of all living beings, the great Master God Tier of life. Lowly life calls for the existence of the Lord. May your excellency try to bestow upon him a new life. Your loyal believer Carol Moeli requests your arrival. He knelt on the ground with his hands, feet, and forehead pressed against the ground to express his respect. The surrounding believers of the clergy also used the same prayer to call out to the Master God Tier. These clergymen are all fanatic believers of the goddess of life. Zhou stated softly. The Yellow Emperor and the others were shocked. Fanatic believers were second only to Holy Spirit Tier believers. Furthermore, they had the chance to advance to Holy Spirit Tier believers in the future. In addition, there were very few of them, so they were all treasures in the hearts of the God spirits. He did not expect to see 130,000 fanatic believers here. Ordinary God spirits probably wouldn't even dare to think that they could have so many fanatic believers. As expected of the goddess of life who was comparable to a sage, the Yellow Emperor and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Zhou, on the other hand, had a calm expression and did not look very surprised. Even though there were many fanatic believers in front of him, if they really fought, they would definitely follow the restrictions of the Lord Talent and be loyal to him after all. Even if he wanted them to fight the goddess of life, they would not hesitate at all. The Lord's laws were above all laws and concepts. Even supreme faith was no exception. At the same time, after Carol Moeli finished her ritual prayer, he quietly knelt on the ground and waited for the arrival of the goddess of life. However, time slowly passed. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the scene was still quiet. There was no sign that the goddess of life was about to appear. What's going on? Could there be an accident? He hesitated. The Yellow Emperor and Patriarch Lu were also a little impatient. They knew that Zhou had paid a huge price to resurrect the Buddha Lord. If they did not succeed in resurrecting the Buddha Lord after this, they did not know how to face Zhou. Moreover, the Buddha Lord was their best friend. They naturally did not want anything to happen to the revival of the Buddha Lord. Calm down. Zhou shook his head and said, "This subordinate of mine is hosting a ritual to summon the goddess of life herself, not the divine projection of the past. An existence like the goddess of life must be an occupied person. It's good enough that we're allowed to summon each other. Let's just wait for a while." "You're right, Patriarch." The Yellow Emperor and the others nodded. Then, he could only suppress the anxiety in his heart and wait patiently. They had been expecting for the Buddha Lord's return for tens of thousands of years. It didn't matter if it took a while. Another half an hour passed. Suddenly, the statue of the goddess of life at the center of the clergy suddenly emitted a gentle emerald light. This luminosity seemed to be able to illuminate the myriad worlds and reflect the appearance of countless life forms. Trillions of life forms appeared in the emerald green light. They knelt on the ground and implored to the goddess of life. As far as their eyes could see, their faces were filled with fanaticism. Under the fanatical gazes of these trillions of life forms, the statue of the goddess of life slowly transformed into a supreme life form. He had long, supple and flawless jade green hair. His skin was holy and fair, and he had a pair of emerald green eyes. He was tall and slender, with a slender waist and an exquisite 5-colored garland around his navel. The lower half of he was wearing an emerald green gown that revealed his straight, fair and long legs. At that moment, he was floating in midair barefoot, looking holy and pure. The moment he appeared, a mystical charm emanated from him. Everyone looked at the goddess of life with the respect and admiration of a child seeing his mother. "Greetings, Mother Goddess!" All living beings shouted. Even the Yellow Emperor, Patriarch Lu, and he were no exception. Among the people present, the only one who was not affected was Zhou. Zhou glanced at them and forced himself to retract his gaze. He looked at the goddess of life's beautiful appearance and was extremely shocked. This was the goddess of life, one of the top 10 Master God tiers. All living beings were believers of the Master God tier of life. Its ability was indeed unbelievable. At this moment, the goddess of life's gaze suddenly landed on Zhou. Chapter 1049 Goddess of Life's Guidance. Concealment. Greetings, Your Excellency Goddess of Life. When Zhou saw the goddess of life looking over, his heart skipped a beat. Then, he immediately said politely, "We meet again, common people's regal." The goddess of life smiled. Zhou nodded with a smile on the surface, but he could not help but click his tongue in his heart. Why did he feel that His Excellency the goddess of life seemed to be on par with him? At this moment, Trist's gaze landed on the Buddha Lord's relic. "Do you want me to resurrect this human true god tier?" Trist looked at Zhou and said, "Actually, normally speaking, he should have asked Carol Moeli, the initiator of the Great Resurrection spell. However, he might also know that Zhou was the one in charge, so he actually asked Zhou directly. "Yes, Your Excellency." Zhou was also stunned for a moment. Then he realized that the goddess of life was asking him, and immediately said. Trist nodded and looked at the Buddha Lord's relic again. As he watched, he suddenly looked at Zhou in wonder and chuckled. "In all the years I've wielded the Great Resurrection spell, only 5 existences have used such a price to revive 5 true god tier and above experts. Common people's regal." You're number 6 now. Yellow Emperor and the others couldn't help but be secretly shocked. When Zhou heard this, he looked like he had expected this. As expected, not many existences had used the true God-tier resurrection technique that could only be used at such a huge price. As expected, not many existences had used the true God-tier resurrection technique that could only be used at such a huge price. This was really... Zhou sighed in his heart, but he did not have any regrets. Now that he was already the patriarch of the human race, reviving the Buddha Lord was equivalent to reviving his subordinates. No matter how great the price of revival was, it was worth it. There was nothing to regret. Common people's regal. I have a way to let you use fewer Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals to revive the Buddha Lord. It's just that the process is a little troublesome, but this trouble is within your acceptable range. Do you want to know what this method is? However, if you want to know this method, I need to obtain 100,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals as a reward. Are you willing to make this deal? Just as everyone thought that the goddess of life was going to resurrect the Buddha Lord, she suddenly said these words, causing everyone present to be stunned on the spot. Are you willing to make this deal? Clearly, he, a cardinal, did not expect the God spirit he believed in to say such words. I'm willing to make this deal. Zhou was the first to react and immediately said, it wasn't that he didn't want to revive the Buddha Lord, so he wanted to stall for time. The price of resurrecting a true God tier was too high. If he used 500,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals to revive the Buddha Lord, he would not be able to revive his true God tier subordinates in time. If anything happened to the other true gods under his command in the next 2 days, and he did not have enough Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals. Now that the goddess of life said that he had a better way to revive, why didn't he listen first? If he felt that it was not suitable, he could just not use it. As for the price of 100,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals, he could afford it anyway. At most, he would just treat it as building a relationship with the goddess of life. In any case, he would not lose out. The Yellow Emperor and the others didn't say anything. Firstly, they had no reason to stop Zhou from making such a choice. Secondly, if the price of resurrection could be lowered, it would be beneficial to them. Who could guarantee that nothing would happen to him in the future? If the price of resurrection was too high, and they could not be resurrected, they would feel terrible. At this moment, after hearing Zhou's words, the goddess of life slowly revealed another method to revive the Buddha Lord. You can go to the temple of the Master God tier of death, Thanatos, and ask him to use the great reincarnation technique to revive the resurrected through reincarnation. At this time, even though the living beings who reincarnated and revived have complete souls and memories, their bodies still don't have a trace of supernatural power. But don't worry, at this time, you can ask Thanatos to reconstruct their peak divine body and perfectly fuse their divine body and soul. This way, the revived living beings can return to this world in the most perfect form. Don't worry about it. Thanatos is very good at this. You don't have to worry about Thanatos doing anything fishy in the process. He often helped other Master God tiers do such things and used them to obtain the resources he wanted. In this aspect, he cared very much about his credibility. The goddess of life smiled. Zhou and the others blinked. There was actually such a thing. An existence like the Master God tier of death, Thanatos, actually had something similar to his business? The Yellow Emperor and the others beside, he looked at each other. Their hearts were pounding, and they were inexplicably excited. To them, this news was no less than obtaining a top-notch civilization legacy. Moreover, it was a top-notch civilization inheritance related to the Master God tier of death, one of the top 10 Master Gods. It had to be recorded in the treasury of human civilization. Its value was inestimable. The Yellow Emperor and company gritted their teeth as they thought. Zhou thought for a moment and chose his words carefully. Thank you, Your Excellency, for telling us this news. But at this point, Your Excellency, there's something I don't understand. In fact, Your Excellency can use Your Excellency's Great Resurrection spell to complete the entire transaction, and obtain all the resurrection benefits. Why did you pass this deal to the other Master God tier? The goddess of life smiled slightly, then suddenly sent a mental message. Actually, this matter can be considered a small secret to me. However, many Master God tiers know about this little secret. There's no harm in telling you about this Regal, who might become a Master God tier in the future. But I can only tell you one thing. You're the only one qualified to know my secret among the life forms present. No one else can. Zhou immediately felt apprehensive. He looked at the Yellow Emperor and company from the corner of his eyes. Sure enough, they saw a blank expression on their faces. Clearly they did not know what the goddess of life was talking about. I promised to keep this a secret, and not tell any other existence. Zhou braced himself, and transmitted his voice. At this moment, even if he didn't want to know, he had no choice but to listen to this Her Excellency's secret. The goddess of life nodded slightly. As the Master God tier of the law of life, I control the law of life. Actually, a law technique like the Great Resurrection spell that reverses life and death is not completely compatible with, or even completely contradictory to the laws I master. Because birth, aging, illness, and death are processes that all living beings that are not God spirits must experience. The so-called resurrection has actually violated the rules of life. It's a betrayal of the law of life. If I use the Great Resurrection spell, and it's an extremely high-level Great Resurrection spell, such as the Great Resurrection spell that resurrects a true God tier, it actually won't be very beneficial to me. Using the Great Resurrection spell often will even cause my nomological path to go astray, preventing the possibility of advancing to a higher level in the future. That's why I passed this business of yours to the Master God tier of death. His great cycle of reincarnation is extremely suitable for reviving life forms. Furthermore, the control of life and death in the cycle of reincarnation is also beneficial for he to comprehend the law of death. That's why he likes to do such things. Furthermore, if I transfer your business to the Master God tier of death, he'll actually get that guy's return. The goddess of life smiled. Zhou was dumbfounded. Good God! He had previously thought that the goddess of life and the Master God tier of death were hostile to each other because of the opposing laws. Unexpectedly, the two of them seemed to be on good terms. My relationship with Thanatos is quite good. We often discuss our nomological comprehensions together. Other than his voice being a little unpleasant, his appearance being a little ugly, his personality being a little arrogant, and his body odor being a little stinky, he actually doesn't have whatever major flaws. The goddess of life seemed to have seen through Zhou's thoughts and said indifferently, Zhou, I can tell that you have a really excellent relationship with the Master God tier of death. With so many flaws, they were willing to sit down and negotiate with the other party. After a moment of silence, Zhou couldn't help but ask in puzzlement. Since the Great Resurrection spell is not suitable for your path of nomological laws, why are there still legends in the myriad worlds that you often use the Great Resurrection spell to revive billions of life forms? According to the numerous legacies he had obtained, the goddess of life was a Master God tier existence. Her greatest reputation in the myriad worlds was her benevolent and compassionate personality. According to the numerous legacies he had obtained, most of the life forms in the endless heavens were extremely friendly to the goddess of life. Even the gods who knew more confidential information respected this Master God tier very much. It was not out of respect for the other party's power and strength, but true respect for the deeds that the other party had done. First of all, if I only resurrect some god spirits and life forms below the genuine God tier level, it actually won't affect me much. Any projection of my divine power clone can easily do it. Also, even though using the Great Resurrection spell often has a slight effect on my path of laws, this kind of thing is very beneficial to my will. In the words of your human civilization, you can think clearly after doing it. Zhou, you've already comprehended the power of will. You should understand how important will is to us. In a way, Master God tier, and even stronger God spirits value their will more than their laws. I observed the death of a life form, and experienced pity for the passing of this life. I wanted to use my own method to save this life. This is undoubtedly disrespectful and a betrayal to the law of life. But isn't this act of pitying life also close to the original intention of the concept of life? People who don't pity life can't be gods of the law of life. The other laws might be a little different, but they're generally the same. The goddess of life said. Zhou seemed to have understood something. He sensed it. The goddess of life seemed to be giving him pointers. He wasn't even pointing out his nomological problems. Instead, it allowed him to see the rules, comprehend the rules, and control the rules from a higher perspective. Chapter 1050 Meeting the Thanatos statue again. Buddha Lord resurrected. Lastly, we God spirits control the rules, not to be slaves to the rules, and follow the rules indefinitely. Only a special existence like the heavenly God would enjoy this. They think that they were born with a noble status, but they don't know that we master God-tier existences look down on this group of God spirits bestowed by the heavens. Common people's regal, as God spirits. The meaning of us controlling the rules is not only to advance to a higher level of God spirits, but also to create rules that suit our wishes according to the rules. Even if this kind of creation requires us to betray the already solidified rules, it's still worth it for us to do it. That's my great resurrection spell. The goddess of life looked at Zhou. I've learned my lesson, Zhou said from the bottom of his heart. He felt that he had gained a lot more understanding of the essence of the Lord's laws. The goddess of life nodded and said, "Go ahead." The goddess of life gradually turned back into a statue. At this moment, the 500,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals on the resurrection altar were also missing 100,000. Zhou saw this scene, but he did not care at all. He felt that he had obtained something far more precious than 100,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals. He waved his right hand and saw that all the items on the resurrection altar had been put into his king's treasure box. Then, he led the Yellow Emperor and the others out of the shelter of the goddess of life and rushed to the god of death's temple. A moment later, Zhou and company flew to a plain with lush trees. A temple protected by thousands of Homeland Defense Army soldiers appeared in front of them. This temple was the god of death's temple that Zhou had conquered from a kobold tribe in the territory next door when he was developing in the high continent. The original temple was still very dilapidated. However, this place had already been renovated. Not only had the palace turned from a stone palace into a yellow gold tier palace, but even the statue of the god of death inside had turned from a stone statue to a statue carved from yellow gold tier. It looked mysterious, dignified, and extravagant. The reason why the renovation was so extravagant was because Zhou knew that the god of death, Thanatos, liked this style through his bloodline inheritance. In any case, yellow gold tier was not worth much in the high continent, so Zhou conveniently fulfilled the other party's request for the temple style. Zhou looked at the seismograph and felt very emotional. He had not been here for a long time. Ever since he had led his troops to deal with the Netherbark Kingdom, he had been more worried that this matter would attract the dissatisfaction of the god of death, Thanatos. The Netherbark Kingdom was a religious kingdom dedicated to the god of death after all. He had destroyed the Netherbark Kingdom. Even though he said that he had a reason, he was still a master god tier after all. He could not afford to offend him, so he had never come again. Even though he later obtained a large number of Holy Spirit level tier faith divine crystals, and knew that he could use these faith divine crystals to exchange for a large number of treasures from the god of death, such as the Divine Kingdom Soldier type, Soul Reaper, Death Immunity Scroll, and so on, he didn't think of coming over again. He still came today unexpectedly. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. I'm the Lord of all races in the Supreme Will's camp after all. I'm protected by the Supreme Agreement. This time, I came with the intention of the goddess of life. The god of death won't casually attack me, right? Zhou felt uneasy. However, when he thought of the Supreme Agreement, he felt more confident. He took a deep breath and led the Yellow Emperor and the others into the temple. As soon as they walked into the god of death's temple, they heard a bang. The yellow gold tier door behind them closed with a bang, and the lights in the entire temple were instantly extinguished. The entire temple was incomparably dark and silent, making people panic. Yellow Emperor and the others felt their hearts tighten when they saw this. What to do? Facing 10 Master God-tier existences, even Imperial Lord Pangu would probably be nervous if he personally descended. Zhou took a deep breath. His gaze seemed to penetrate the darkness, and he saw the tall statue of the yellow gold tier god of death on the altar. "Greetings, god of death, Zhou," he said respectfully. "Long time no see, little lord under the supreme will. No, it should be the common people's regal. Recently, I've heard so much about your deeds that I don't want to hear anymore." Not long after, the god of death's deep and playful voice sounded. "You flatter me, your excellency," Zhou asked. "Hehe, I already know why you're here. Take out the true god tier's intrinsic item, 50,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals, and 1,000 true god tier intermediate grade divine crystals, and place them on the altar. A mere true god tier intermediate grade human. In a while you will see his reincarnation." "Thank you, your excellency." Zhou's eyes lit up. Good God. It went from 500,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals to 50,000 Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals. It decreased by more than 10 times. This was too convenient for faith divine crystals. He immediately made a decision. In the future, when resurrecting god spirits, they would specially come to the god of death to revive. As for existences below god spirits, the shelter of the goddess of life was more cost-effective. Without another word, he took out all the resurrection items and placed them on the altar. The next second, the item on the altar was suddenly enveloped by a black light. After a while, the black light dissipated, and the item inside had already disappeared. It's not convenient for me to go to the high continent. Therefore, I will use the great reincarnation technique in the netherworld to revive the true god tier of your human race. The god of death, Thanatos said. "As you wish, your excellency," Zhou immediately said. The entire god of death temple returned to silence. Zhou and company gazed at each other and waited quietly. About 15 minutes later, whoosh! An incomparably pitch-black dot suddenly emerged on the altar. Then, it quickly expanded and in the blink of an eye, it became a pitch-black divine door that was more than 3 meters tall. Right on the heels of that, a monk with a golden wheel of virtue on his back and a bun on his head proceeded out. He had a charitable face and a ruddy face. He was tall and burly. At the same time, he was wearing a red and silver kasaya. He gazed at everyone present and raised his palm with one hand as he smiled kindly. "Brothers of the human race, embark." Amitabha. The Yellow Emperor and the other human gods gazed at the familiar Buddha Lord and couldn't help but shed tears. A grin emerged on Zhou's face. At the same time, Tathagata, who was meditating and resting in his residence, too seemed to have sensed something. He gazed behind him. The golden wheel of merit behind him gradually dimmed. After a while, only wisps of golden light of virtue surrounded him. Seeing this, not only was Tathagata not disappointed, he even so revealed a relieved smile. He pressed his palms together towards the direction of the god of death's temple and smiled in relief. "Amitabha, Buddha has returned. It's a happy day." Chapter 1051 Confusion in the God of Death's Temple. The Yellow Emperor, Buddha Lord, Patriarch Lu, and White River hugged each other excitedly. "Buddha Lord, we finally meet again. We can fight together again. Haha, Buddha Lord, you're finally back. If you hadn't come back, that kid Roygar wouldn't have been able to hold on. However, I have to say that Roygar has managed your Saha Empire very well. Now that you're back, you have to praise him. Sai, why didn't you tell us about such a big matter like Nirvana? Fortunately, you're revived now. At that time, I had no choice but to leave a message for you. Every second that I delay, more life forms in that world will be transformed into fog monsters by the mist source. I could only use Nirvana as the price to cross the entire boundless universe and barely expel the mist source. Alright. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." The Yellow Emperor and the rest seemed to want to tell the Buddha Lord everything that they had not said all these years. The Buddha Lord also had a lot to say to the Yellow Emperor and company. Zhou smiled upon seeing this. The feeling that the Buddha Lord gave him was different from what he had imagined. The Buddha Lord had the heroic temperament of a valiant warrior other than the benevolent and compassionate temperament that ordinary Buddha cultivators should have. He had seen this temperament many times on his own soldiers. It could be said that he was very familiar with it. He did not expect this Buddha Lord to have such a temperament. According to what the Yellow Emperor and the others said in the past, the Buddha Lord is their comrade in arms, who fought to the death with other races when they were insignificant in the human race. The human race's status before I came was all the result of Pangu, the Yellow Emperor, and the Buddha Lord killing billions of people of foreign races. It's normal to have such feelings, Zhou thought to himself. At this moment, the Yellow Emperor seemed to have thought of something, and hurriedly stopped chatting with the Buddha Lord. Then, he brought the Buddha Lord to Zhou and said with a smile, "This is the current patriarch of our human race. Common People's Regal, Lord of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou. He's also the strongest Lord participant of the human race in the Lord of All Races contest, initiated by the Supreme Will. No, it should be said that he's the strongest Lord competitor among all the races. Buddha Lord, the reason why you were able to revive is all because of our new patriarch. I'll explain the details to you later. First, thank our patriarch." When the Buddha Lord heard this, he immediately looked at Zhou in surprise. Naturally, he would not doubt the words of his good brother, even if the person in front of him was only at the low-tier deity level intermediate grade on the surface. However, since his good brother said that he was their human race patriarch, he definitely had the qualifications to sit in this position. "Greetings, human sovereign." Without even asking, he clasped his hands together and thanked Zhou. "You're too kind, Buddha Lord." Zhou smiled. "I'm already the human clan leader. If I have the ability, I'll naturally help the leader of the human clan if I can." "There's nothing to say." "You can't say that." Patriarch Lu shook his head. "Patriarch, when you were preparing to revive the Buddha Lord just now, you weren't the patriarch of the human race." When the Buddha Lord listened this, he immediately felt even more admiration for his new patriarch. He didn't know anything else for the time being. Just from Patriarch Lu's words, it was enough to prove that his clan leader was a noble person who was willing to sacrifice for the human race. "Don't worry about that." Zhou shook his head and gazed at the God of Death statue. "Let's first express our gratitude to Your Excellency. You're right. I almost forgot my manners." Only then did the Yellow Emperor and company react. They hurriedly came to the God of Death statue with Zhou. Then Zhou was the first to speak. "Thank you, Your Excellency, for resurrecting our true God tier." After Zhou finished speaking, the Yellow Emperor and company also said respectfully in unison, "Thank you, Your Excellency God of Death, for resurrecting the true God tier of our human race. It's a deal." The God of Death's deep voice sounded with satisfaction. "Common People's Regal, the quality of the Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals you offered can be uttered to be perfect. If there are other resurrected gods in the future, you can send them to me. I can guarantee that the Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals I need to resurrect God spirits will only be about 1/10 of Triests. Resurrect creatures below the level of God spirits. Go find Triest again. In this aspect, he is indeed better than me. I can't be bothered to revive those ants." "That's what I was thinking," Zhou said. "Ha ha ha." The God of Death laughed and uttered casually, "I know why you didn't come to my temple previously. It's because of the destruction of the Netherbark Kingdom, right?" "Yes, Your Excellency." Before Zhou came, he was already prepared to face such a problem. At this moment, he did not hesitate and directly revealed his true thoughts. After all, he couldn't fool them. "Haha, the Common People's Regal. I like your honesty, but you don't have to worry about that. Even though the Netherbark Kingdom is indeed my faith country, it has even been bestowed with a God-given building by me. However, since they chose to participate in this huge gamble of the Lord of all races, their future prosperity and destruction will be the result of their own choice, as long as they are not interfered by any special external forces. As the Lord of all races, you use legitimate methods to annihilate an enemy who blocked your path to becoming the Lord of all races. What crime can you commit? No one will blame you for this, not even me, one of the strongest Master God tier. Thanatos said calmly, if only every race thinks like you. Zhou smiled bitterly. Are you talking about Uriel and the other kids? The god of death chuckled. They are indeed a little too much, but it's a pity that they are all within the rules set by the supreme will. They can be considered to be following the rules. At most, they are walking on the edge of the rules. Fortunately, your growth speed far exceeds their expectations, preventing these fellows who wander around the edge of the natural order from harming you. But, God of Death Thanatos' tone suddenly became serious. This is only temporary. If they really think that you might threaten they to fight for the position of the Lord of all races, and they feel that they have to eliminate you, they will probably take the risk of violating the supreme agreement to attack you. Therefore, common people's regal, you still have to be careful. Remember your attitude when you first came to the High Continent. You were pretty good back then. Thank you for your guidance, Your Excellency. I'll recall that. Zhou uttered respectfully. Sure. Common people's regal, being a Master God tier, is actually very boring. I hope you won't die too early, and bring us old fellows some surprises. You can leave now. The God of Death Thanatos said. The candles in the temple suddenly lit up again, illuminating the entire God of Death's temple. At the same time, the door of the God of Death temple behind them opened with a bang, revealing the scenery outside. When Zhou saw this, he took one last look at the God of Death statue. The kobold with the God of Death scythe closed his eyes and appeared to be resting. Let's go. He gazed at the Yellow Emperor and company. Sure. Seeing that the God of Death didn't look like he was going to entertain them, the Yellow Emperor and company didn't dare to stay any longer. They returned to the Blazing Sun Kingdom with Zhou. Chapter 1052 Plan the Primordial World. The Holy Divine Ancient Hall. In the huge ancient hall, there was only a chaotic stone table and 11 chaotic stone thrones surrounding it. Only true God-tier speaker-level existences were qualified to sit on each stone throne. At this moment, almost half of the 11 thrones were occupied by the speaker of the human race. They were the second speaker, Zhou, the third speaker, Ji Xianyuan, the fourth speaker, the Buddha Lord, the fifth speaker, Patriarch Lu, and the sixth speaker, Bai He. When the Yellow Emperor saw this scene, he could not help but smile. This scene reminds me of the peak of the human race, when the Imperial Lord was still alive. Even though the Imperial Lord has yet to recover, the human race is already better than before. No, it should be said that we are far better than before. He lamented. Back then, there were only 5 true God-tier existences at the peak of the human race. There were only 5 stone thrones. Later on, when Imperial Lord Pango fell asleep, the Buddha Lord underwent nirvana, and Patriarch Lu left. The only ones who often appeared here were White River and him. However, there were 11 stone thrones here. Wasn't it much better than before? Zhou smiled and did not say anything. Now that he was the patriarch of the human race, the entire human race was under his control. It was naturally very simple for him to arrange for the true God tiers under him to enter the human race's parliament. This was also why there were 11 stone thrones here. This was because 6 of them belonged to him, the true God tier of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. As for the contribution requirements to become the speaker of the human race, it was even simpler. His subordinates had not only repelled the attacks of the people of foreign races for the human race, in terms of contributions after all. However, they had also eliminated those people of foreign races later on, causing them to either be wiped out or surrender. This had expanded the territory of the human race by more than 4 to 5 times. After all, in terms of contributions, his subordinates had not only repelled the attacks of the people of foreign races for the human race, they had also eliminated those people of foreign races later on, causing them to either be wiped out or surrender. This had expanded the territory of the human race by more than 4 to 5 times. However, there was another requirement to become the speaker of the human race. One had to be a true god tier of the human race. However, this was a special period for the human race. He could lower his requirements and let the true god tiers of the people of foreign races join, as long as they were loyal to the human race. At the same time, the Buddha Lord also looked at the 11 human true god tiers with great emotion. He never expected that so many major events would happen to the human race after he reincarnated. Thankfully, they had Zhou, the new human clan leader, who had brought countless miracles and unlimited possibilities to the human race. If Imperial Lord Pangu is the master of the human race's Yuan opening realm, then this common people's regal is the master of the human race's revival. Humanity might reach an unimaginable level of glory in his hands. The Buddha Lord thought to himself. Even though he had only met Zhou today, on the way back, the Yellow Emperor and company had already told him about the series of things that had happened during his nirvana. Naturally, this included matters regarding Zhou. As he, who mainly cultivated the law of karma and the law of time, he could see the limitless potential hidden in Zhou from his many deeds. It wouldn't be wrong to hand over the future of humanity to him. Buddha Lord, you just reincarnated and revived. Do you feel any discomfort? At this moment, Zhou looked at he and asked with concern. No discomfort at all. The Buddha Lord shook his head and sighed. Your Excellency's great reincarnation technique is very unbelievable. I feel that my divine body and soul are perfectly compatible. It's no different from my divine body and soul when I was alive. That's not all. I've comprehended a lot from his great reincarnation spell, coupled with my previous comprehension of life and death from the nirvana cycle. I feel that I'm about to advance to the advanced grade of a true god tier. Really? The Yellow Emperor and the others were delighted. When have I ever lied to you? The Buddha Lord smiled. That's great. That's true. You experienced a true reincarnation of life and death this time. Not a fake reincarnation of life and death like the law of karma. In addition to your Excellency's great reincarnation technique, this time, you might really be able to advance to an advanced grade true god tier expert. Everyone happily discussed. I also feel like I'm about to advance. If both of us advance to advanced grade true god tier, when the Emperor revives, our human race will have 3 advanced grade true god tier experts. When the time comes, as long as we don't encounter any enemy factions with master god tier level methods, we basically won't encounter too much danger. After the discussion, the Yellow Emperor said to the Buddha Lord and the others. Everyone nodded, their hearts filled with anticipation. The current human race needed this sense of security too much. The Yellow Emperor suddenly thought of something and looked at Zhou. Patriarch, how's the operation against the people of foreign races going? Good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Zhou smiled. Good news. The Yellow Emperor and the others looked at each other before he spoke. The good news is that most of the people of foreign races that stopped us from retreating to the primordial world have already surrendered to my blazing sun kingdom and become a member of it. Currently, the merely ones who haven't surrendered are those people of foreign races who sense that they are powerful and have an empire-level lord faction. Zhou said. When everyone heard this, they immediately looked relieved. They felt very happy to see the enemies of the people of foreign races who had hit them when they were down. And the bad news? Patriarch Lu asked after being happy for a while. When Zhou heard this, him told the Yellow Emperor and the others about the Shadow Tribe gathering their allies to prepare for the final battle. When the Yellow Emperor and the others heard this, they couldn't help but open their mouths wide, as if they had heard something unbelievable. Patriarch, you're saying that within 3 days, the Shadow Race will gather 1 trillion people of foreign races and nearly 100 true god tiers to attack your blazing sun kingdom together? He gulped and asked. Zhou nodded. The Yellow Emperor and the others looked at each other in confusion. Had the humane tribe offended a certain divine kingdom lord faction? There were trillions of true god tiers and nearly 100 true god tiers. What was there to fight? Don't sense hopeless. Zhou looked at their expressions and knew what they were thinking. He knocked on the chaotic round table in front of him, emitting a crisp reverberation. He said, "First of all, in terms of military strength, the number of troops under my command will also reach 1,000,000,000,000 tomorrow. As for the true god tier, the number of nearly 100 true gods sounds like a lot, but they will merely gather in 3 days. During this period, we can go to the Shadow Clan in advance and destroy them. As long as the Shadow Clan is destroyed, the people of foreign races who came to the Eye will naturally know how powerful we are and won't dare to attack rashly. Then, there's a high chance that they will give up their support operation and return to their territory. Even if a small number of people of foreign races still want to deal with us, they will merely be a small force. We can naturally win easily as long as we obtain information about these people of foreign races in advance. Everyone, the power of our humane tribe is actually no longer the same as before. We just need to be careful and not make any mistakes. The final victory of this battle will definitely belong to us." Chapter 1053 The Domineering Buddha Lord. Shadow race information. Everyone could not help but feel much more at ease after hearing Zhou words. Their patriarch's words seemed to make sense. However, they also looked at Zhou in surprise. How long has it been? The patriarch's military strength had actually reached 1,000,000,000,000? This was comparable to an ordinary Divine Kingdom Lord faction. The Buddha Lord felt like he was in a dream. Their patriarch actually had almost 1,000,000,000,000 soldiers in his hands. Back when they were at the peak of the human race, how many soldiers did they have? It seemed to have only broken through 10 billion, right? We've found a powerful figure for the human race to be the patriarch. After hearing Zhou's words, the Yellow Emperor thought for a while and nodded. His Majesty makes sense. In that case, I'll immediately contact our human god spirits and get them to rush to the Blazing Sun Kingdom to prepare for the battle in the next 3 days. In addition, a few of us will participate in this battle. Zhou nodded. This time, he didn't stop him. This was because he was already the patriarch of the human race. He was already qualified to use all the resources of the human race under the premise of adhering to the Supreme Agreement. This naturally included ordering true god tiers to participate in his war. The other lords of the 10,000 races could not do this. First of all, even if they wanted to be the patriarchs of the races behind them, they had to see if the super experts behind them agreed. Zhou had relied on his strength, influence, and contributions to become the patriarch of the human race. It was precisely because of this that the Supreme Agreement did not stop when he became the patriarch of the human race. If the other lord of all races wanted to do the same, they had to satisfy their requirements to become the leader of their race. Without fulfilling the requirements to become the clan leader, he tried to compete for the position of the lord of all races, and was forcefully pushed to this position by the experts of the race behind him. This was cheating. The Supreme Agreement would definitely not allow it. The higher the ranking, the more it was like this. Like the Chaos God's race. If the Great One Lord wanted to become the patriarch of the chaotic divine clan, the most basic requirement was that his own strength had to reach the level of a Master God tier, or have the combat power of a Master God tier. If he couldn't do this, there was no need to talk about anything else. In that case, on the other hand, the weaker the race, the easier it was for the Lord of all races to become the patriarchs of their race. I will give everyone a small surprise when the gods arrive tomorrow. At this moment, Zhou said with a smile. Oh, what surprise? The Yellow Emperor and company's eyes lit up as they asked curiously. It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you in advance. Zhou smiled. Then, he flipped his right hand, and a spatial ring appeared on his right hand. He then flew it directly to the Buddha Lord. Buddha Lord, there's a set of true god tier divine artifacts inside. Consider it a temporary loan from me. When the war starts tomorrow, you can kill the true god tiers of the people of foreign races, and hand over their corpses to me in exchange for the ownership of these true god tier artifacts. These true god tier divine artifacts that are lent to you will truly become your possession. The specific exchange price is the corpse of a true god tier elementary grade god spirit. The corpse of a true god tier advanced grade enemy can be exchanged for a true God-tier advanced divine artifact. If you don't need true God-tier divine artifacts but materials at the true God-tier level, you can also exchange them this way. A true God-level corpse can be exchanged for 5 true God-tier materials of the same level. As long as I have it, I can exchange it for you. If you don't have it, there's no other way. Zhou said. Thank you, Patriarch. When the Buddha Lord heard this, he looked at the spatial ring in his hand, and could not help but click his tongue. Even though he had already learned of the majesty of the Patriarch from the Buddha Lord, seeing was believing. At this moment, he finally understood how the Yellow Emperor and the others felt when they took over the true God-tier divine artifacts. His divine sense entered, and immediately saw the 6 true God-tier intermediate-grade divine artifacts inside. Then, to his surprise, these 6 true God-tier intermediate-grade divine artifacts were actually true God-tier divine artifacts that were specially tailored to his nomological path. Among them, there were 3 true God-tier grade intermediate-grade divine artifacts. They were true God-tier divine artifacts of the law of karma. Of the other 3 true God-tier divine artifacts, one was a true God-tier divine artifact with the law of light, and the other 2 were true God-tier divine artifacts with the law of time. These true God-tier divine artifacts were simply tailor-made for him. The Patriarch was really impressive. The Buddha Lord sighed inwardly. The Buddha Lord had lived for so long, but this was the first time he had such luxury. Oh yes, you left behind a reincarnation after your nirvana. Now he has already become a new life. His Dharma name is Tathagata. You can check it out when you have time. The Yellow Emperor suddenly thought of this, and reminded the Buddha Lord. When I came, I had already sensed his existence. I'll meet he in a while. He should be waiting for me now. The Buddha Lord smiled. Zhou and the others nodded. Then, they chatted about the details of tomorrow's battle, and the simple meeting ended. Zhou returned to the Blazing Sun Kingdom, and the Yellow Emperor and company went to gather the human god spirits. The Blazing Sun Kingdom, after Zhou returned, he called Bai Yin, Wu Tu, and the other generals over for a formal military meeting. The content of the meeting was about how to destroy the Shadow Clan, an enemy race. After heading to the Shadow Clan's territory, Wu Tu first took out the relevant information about the Shadow Tribe and projected it in the air, giving the generals and god spirits present a simple introduction. The Shadow race is a special life form race born from the shadow of all things. They belong to the energy life form race. Due to their physical structure, even though they do not have many weaknesses in their bodies, they have their energy core, which is their eyes. Wu Tu pointed at the shadow race member in the projection. This shadow race member seemed to be made of shadows. Other than the faint black shadows, his body had no other color. The only thing that attracted his attention was its black crystal-like eyes. After seeing it, everyone could not help but possess a deep impression. The shadow race will die immediately as long as we shatter their eyes. It's the same whether it's the shadow race below the god spirit level, or the shadow race above the god spirit level. Everyone, you could pay attention to it when you fight the shadow race tomorrow. Wu Tu stated seriously. Then, he flipped the page for the projection and pointed at the new page of information. The Shadow Clan is a tribe that is 30% stronger than the previous human clan. There are 10 Shadow Race True God tiers in its race, and there are more than 800 Shadow Race God spirits below the True God tier in the High Continent. Other than that, there are still more than 500 people of foreign tribe God spirits in the Shadow Race's territory. They listen to the Shadow Race. There's a high chance that them will participate in tomorrow's war. As for the soldiers of the Shadow Race, them should be around 16 billion, according to the intelligence of my heavenly map army. These soldiers are nothing to worry about. However, what we need to pay attention to is that at the moment, there are previously a large number of people of foreign races heading towards the territory of the Shadow Race. Chapter 1054 Meeting Lier again. A warm meal. By my estimation, when we arrive at the Shadow Clan's territory tomorrow morning, there should be at least 300 billion soldiers, at least 3,000 people of foreign race god spirits, and at least 20 true god tiers gathered in the Shadow Race's territory. We need to be prepared for this. Apart from that, regarding the shadow race's trump card, Wu Tu spoke confidently in front of the generals, detailing the strength of the shadow race. The generals and god spirits discussed in low voices below. Occasionally, they would ask Wu Tu questions and get answers. The detailed and complete battle plan was slowly discussed. Zhou Zhou was also involved. Half an hour later, the meeting was over. The generals and god spirits went to make their own preparations. As for Zhou Zhou, he was prepared to return to the time world and continue studying the Lord's laws with his 2 clones. However, it was on the way that he bumped into Leia and her maidservant Yu Qiao. What a coincidence! Leia pulled her hair unnaturally and looked at Zhou Zhou. Your Majesty, is something big going to happen tomorrow? That's right. Zhou Zhou nodded and said with a smile. But there's nothing to worry about. In front of a woman, no matter how powerful the enemy was, there was no need to transmit this pressure to her. Furthermore, this wasn't too much pressure for him. Really, Lia's eyes lit up as she looked at Zhou Zhou in admiration. She liked and was even obsessed with Zhou Zhou's confidence. Of course. Zhou Zhou smiled. That's good. Leia lowered her head. Her small hands behind her back intertwined unnaturally. I've prepared dinner. Does your Majesty have time to eat with me? Zhou Zhou looked at the unnatural Leia and Yu Qiao, who was looking at Leia with heartache. He immediately understood something. He immediately smiled and said, Of course I have time. I haven't tasted your cooking in a long time. It just so happens that I'm hungry too. Let's go eat now. Okay. Your Majesty, please follow me. Leia's eyes lit up when she heard that. She immediately stretched out her small hand and held Zhou Zhou's hand. They flew into the Divine World passageway and entered the Divine Kingdom. Then, she walked briskly towards a building not far away called Cunning Palace. Yu Qiao, who was standing at the side, looked at the smile that had not appeared on her queen's face for a long time. A happy smile subconsciously appeared on her face. In the Cunning Palace, Zhou Zhou sat in the main seat and looked at the table full of delicacies in front of him. He could not help but drool. Then, he looked at the nervous and expectant Leia beside him, and his eyes immediately became extremely gentle. The table of delicacies that looked a little inexperienced was indeed personally cooked by Leia. For this former princess, now the queen, to personally cook such a table of dishes, it could be seen how much effort and hard work the other party had secretly put in. And the coincidence just now was probably specially designed by the other party. Yair, Zhou Zhou grabbed her hand and said gently, It's been hard on you. It's not hard. Leia shook her head and pointed at the various dishes in front of her. She looked at Zhou Zhou expectantly. Try it. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded happily. Then he picked up his chopsticks and picked up a red dish in front of him. The name of the dish was Volcanic Food Language. Its form was like a volcano. After Zhou Zhou placed the chopsticks on it, it was as if a switch had been turned on. Ball-shaped delicacies of different colors and fragrance slowly floated out and floated in the air. It looked very beautiful and strange. Zhou Zhou picked up one of the light red meatballs curiously and put it in his mouth. He closed his eyes and slowly savored the taste. Then, he opened his eyes and looked at Leia in satisfaction and surprise. Delicious. Really, of course. Try it if you don't believe me. Zhou Zhou picked up a piece for Leia and fed it to her personally. After Leia ate it, she savored it for a while before opening her eyes to look at Zhou Zhou with a blissful smile. What are you giggling about? Zhou Zhou could not help but be amused by her silly smile. Delicious. Try this. Okay. Zhou Zhou and Leia ate for more than 10 minutes. Then, Zhou Zhou put down his chopsticks in satisfaction and looked at Leia. I'm full. Thank you, my queen, for this dinner. If you like, I can make it for you every day. Leia said. There's no need for that. It's too troublesome. I'll tell you when I have time to come and eat with you. Then you can make the cuisine for me. Zhou Zhou said. Leia's eyes lit up and she agreed vigorously. I'll be going out with the army tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? Zhou Zhou pondered for a moment and said, But wouldn't I cause you any trouble? Leia's eyes lit up, but then she hesitated. You're also at Legendary Tier Advanced grade now. In addition, I don't want you to participate in the battle. It's just that after the battle begins, you can just watch the battle in the spaceship. With your current strength, as long as you don't participate in the battle, and just watch the battle, it won't be a problem. And don't you still have me? With me around, I guarantee that you won't be harmed at all as long as it's not the Master God tier. Zhou said confidently. Then I'll go. Leah immediately said. Zhou nodded and stood up. He said apologetically. I still have to continue cultivating in the time world tonight. I'll have to leave you alone. Of course, a man has to prioritize national affairs. Moreover, you're the king of a country, and I'm the mother of a country. How can I mind such a small matter? Go ahead. I'll see you tomorrow. Leah gazed at Zhou with obvious reluctance, but she still uttered very seriously. Zhou reached out and touched Li Ya's face, feeling inexplicably calm. It was good to have a woman who had a structure and supported him, Zhou thought. Then, he no longer hesitated. He turned around and walked towards the reincarnation sacred palace in the Myriad Ingots Hall not far away. Leah gazed at Zhou's departing figure with an infatuated expression. You're leaving just like that? Your Majesty, for the sake of this table of delicacies, you haven't slept for a few days. You haven't rested well these past few days. Yu Qiao muttered. It's okay. Leah turned around and uttered to Yu Qiao with a blissful smile. His Majesty, he, is very busy every day. Now that he has become the patriarch of the human race, with his current status, I'm already very satisfied that he can take the time to finish this meal with me. Don't you see? Actually, His Majesty has other things he wants to do. Those things might be very important to His Majesty, the Blazing Sun Kingdom, and even the entire human race. However, he is willing to stop for me, listen to me and eat with me. What else am I not satisfied with? What my queen said seems to make sense. Yu Qiao scratched her head in confusion and added, but queen, you're really like what those individuals in the capital call a love brain. Leah couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 1055 11 Trillion Soldiers. The next day, in the reincarnation sacred palace, Zhou, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes. Then he frowned slightly and sighed. I still haven't comprehended the third Lord Law skill. Comprehending the Lord's Law skill is too difficult. Zhou shook his head helplessly. He had an SS-class superpower, Emperor's Descent, and a mythical tier, the only Lord talent, the 10,000 Spirit Saint. It was already so difficult for him to comprehend the third Lord Law skill. He did not know how those regals who did not have these fortuitous encounters, but walked the path of a Lord's Law skill, had comprehended the Lord's Law skill. B0XO. Calm then. He looked at Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan. The two of them had long disappeared. When Zhou saw this, he knew that the other party had gone to get busy. He did not say anything, and continued to close his eyes to comprehend the Lord's laws. At the same time, the Scarlet Brood Mother came straight here. When Zhou Fight woke up early in the morning, has Bai Yin already led the army in? He looked at the tall and ferocious Scarlet Brood Mother and asked, Yes, Your Majesty, Mu Gu said in a low voice. Zhou Fight nodded and waited. A moment later, a blood-colored stream of light flew out of the Scarlet Brood Mother and landed in front of Zhou Fight. It was Bai Yin. Greetings, Your Majesty, Bai Yin said respectfully. Are you done? Zhou Fight asked. Yes, Your Majesty. These are all the class change certificates, recruitment books, and other loots. Bai Yin took out 3 spatial rings with both hands. When Zhou Fight saw this, he sent his divine sense into it. The first spatial ring contained 120 billion copies of the Violent Storm Spirit class change certificate and 120 billion copies of the Yellow Talisman Dao Soldier class change certificate. The second spatial ring contained 120 billion Violent Storm Spirit recruitment books and 120 billion Yellow Talisman Dao Soldier recruitment books. As for the third spatial ring, it contained other loots such as the Thunder Element gems, the Iron-Eating Bear's pet egg, the Fear Falcon's wings, and so on. Zhou Fight nodded slightly and took the second and third spatial rings. Go and change your class. I'm going to recruit new soldiers. Zhou Fight said. Yes, Your Majesty, Bai Yin said respectfully. Then he transformed into a blood-colored stream of light and flew out of the Divine Kingdom world. Zhou Feit also flew out and went straight to the Gate of Summoning. Then, he communicated with Wuxia to summon 300 galaxy ships over. Then he put all 240 billion recruitment books into the Gate of Summoning. Then he got the 240 billion recruits to be located in the inner world of the galaxy. Finally, he used 100 legendary tier mist cores to summon all the recruits. After they came out, Zhou Feit said a few words to the new recruits and asked Wuxia to bring the violent storm spirit to the Forbidden Mage job change statue so that they could complete the job change together. He looked at the 300 galaxy ships filled with soldiers in the distance and could not help but smile. Even without counting the Star Alliance's 40 billion soldiers, I now have 1,075,848,196,048 soldiers. Including the soldiers of the Star Alliance, there are more than 1,100 trillion soldiers. More than 1 trillion soldiers. 1 trillion, Zhou Feit lamented. This was an unimaginable number. The soldiers of all the races in a small world that had grown to its limit added up to that many soldiers. A Divine Kingdom Lord faction that completely controlled their own race, and had even conquered several complete people of foreign races, established an elementary Divine Kingdom, and had the ability to fight across worlds was about the same number of troops. However, such a terrifying force was now in his hands. It had to be said that the feeling of having a strong army was really good. He felt very safe. The current me should only be one Divine Kingdom soldier type away from the true standard combat strength of a beginner-level Divine Kingdom Lord. As long as I have an endless stream of Divine Kingdom soldier type soldiers, my Blazing Sun Kingdom will officially be comparable to a standard beginner-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction. Zhou Feit thought to himself. Of course, having a Divine Kingdom soldier type was not a necessary condition to establish a Divine Kingdom. Without a Divine Kingdom soldier type, one could also establish a Divine Kingdom. However, such a Divine Kingdom faction was like a kingdom without a kingdom-level soldier type, or an empire without an empire-level soldier type. They seemed to have entered that level of power, but in the eyes of the truly powerful lords, they were all unqualified kingdoms or empires. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He spent another 100 legendary tier mist cores to summon the 139,500 new subjects from the Gate of Summoning. Greetings, my lord. X-139. 500 all the new subjects shouted respectfully. Welcome to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Feit smiled. Then, he got all the professionals to stand up and realized that he had summoned a total of 1,090 professionals this time. He summoned 181 more professionals than usual. Among them were a legendary tier array master, a legendary tier mutant, a legendary tier talisman master, a legendary tier alchemist, a legendary tier chi practitioner, a legendary tier yellow heaven sorcerer, a legendary tier card master, and a legendary tier magician. Zhou Feit's gaze dropped on the yellow sky warlock, card user, and magician. Among them, the yellow sky warlock had the bloodline of the Scarlet True God, the yellow sky god, and had mastered some scarlet bloodline spells. Card user was a profession with extraordinary tier cards as the core of the profession. Their abilities were comprehensive and complicated. However, it was precisely because they were too comprehensive that they did not have an obvious advantage in professional specialties. However, if a card user could grow up and display his comprehensive characteristics to the extreme, he would almost be comparable to an empire-level combat professionals of the same level. As for magicians, they were an extraordinary tier profession that used the magic circuit as the core of their profession. They mastered some demonic tactics and close combat abilities. Occasionally, they could even act as contract masters and contract some extraordinary tier creatures from another world to fight for them through demonic arrays. Zhou Feit could not help but click his tongue in wonder after reading it. Every time he summoned a new subject, he would see some interesting profession owners. Not bad, not bad. They were all included in the coverage of the king. Then, he received the officials to arrange for these new subjects while he walked to the Lord's shop alone. The Lord Shop. When Zhou Fight arrived, he observed Zhou Chengmin sitting in front of the counter in boredom. Your Majesty, Zhou Chengmin. You look relaxed today, don't you? Why? Has the game been updated? Zhou Fight sat in front of the counter and questioned casually. Your Majesty's guess is so accurate. The Lord's era has really been updated. Zhou Chengmin said in surprise. Zhou Fight. He understood that this old fellow wouldn't be able to stay idle. Bring out today's merchandise. Zhou Fight trembled his head. Okay. Zhou Chengmin grinned and said. Then, he took out 3 colored boxes from under the counter. One of the boxes was khaki, one was purple, and the last box was black. Zhou Fight opened them one by one and viewed over. The first box contained a professional class change certificate. Item name, Yellow Heaven Warlock Class Change Certificate. Item level, Empire level. Item effect. Item to change the profession of an Empire level combat profession. After using it, you can become an Empire level combat profession, Yellow Heaven Warlock. You will also have the basic theory of Yellow Heaven Warlock cultivation, the bloodline of a true god, an elementary grade Yellow Heaven god, 100 years of combat experience as a Yellow Heaven Warlock, and the initial strength of a lower level White Silver Tier Warlock. Item description, Empire level combat profession class change certificate. It originated from the legacy of True God Scarlet, True God Huang Tian. Coincidentally, a human clansman inherited the legacy of the Scarlet True God inside. In the future, he will have the chance to use this profession to become a true god of Crimson Law. Chapter 1056 3 Goods. 1,700 God Spirits arrive. Yellow Heaven Warlock Class Change Certificate? The corners of Zhou Fight's mouth twitched. Would it be the subject's merchandise venue again? Even though this thing was not bad, it was a class change certificate for an Empire-level combat profession. But he could harvest hundreds of billions of similar books in a day. This thing was of little value to him. At most, it was somewhat unique. Moreover, Zhou Fight did not take this specialty seriously. B0XO. Wasn't it just an Empire-level profession that could become a Scarlet True God tier? He, a regal with a law skill, needed to become a Scarlet True God tier? Wasn't that lowering his status? Couldn't he just let his subordinates become True God tier Scarlet? Mugu, for example. He'll throw it into the military merit exchange system later, and include the exchanger in the king's territory. The exchanger knows it. I have it. I know it too. I have it. Zhou Fight made a relaxed and happy decision. Then, he looked at the second purple box. He looked over after he opened it. He saw a purple card lying quietly inside. Zhou Fight picked it up and looked at it. Behind it was a purple vortex pattern. On the front was a sealed rotten wooden coffin. Card name, Sealed Slave House. Card grade, Special Level. Card effect. Throw any living creature's corpse killed by the owner into the sealed slave hall. The corpse will be enslaved by the hall spirit, and inherit all the memories and strength of the corpse when it was alive. From there, the corpse will be controlled to fight for the owner of the card. After the corpse was destroyed, there would be a gap of 1 day before a new corpse could be placed in the slave hall. Card description. Forbidden coffin, eager to seal and enslave more powerful corpses. Zhou Fight raised his eyebrows. What is this? Corpse elf orb? Zhou Fight smacked his lips twice before putting it into his king's treasure box. Today, he could use it to subdue a true god tier from the people of foreign races for fun. Then, he gazed at the third box. In the third box, there was a thick book that gazed like a dictionary. Treasure name, Encyclopedia of Demonic Tactics, Treasure Grade, High Tier Deity Level, Treasure Effect, the Extraordinary Tier Magician's Tactics Book. It contains 16,326 basic tactics, 16,471 advanced tactics, 2,122 advanced tactics, and 36 forbidden tactics. If you completely master this demonic tactics encyclopedia, you can become a top-notch magician. Treasure Introduction, the Encyclopedia of Extraordinary Tier Magicians. It is also the best introductory book. Zhou Fight flipped through it a few times before losing interest. This was because these warlocks, from the basic level to the advanced level, were only equivalent to ordinary magic skills. Only forbidden techniques could be considered law skill level abilities. However, Zhou Fight did not lack law skills at all. In addition, he wanted to learn these techniques and become a magician, which crafted Zhou Fight even more uninterested. The magician appeared to be an extraordinary tier product of a small world after all. The upper limit was only equivalent to an empire-level combat profession. There was no need for Zhou Fight to waste his professional position on this extraordinary tier profession with low potential. Only he might be interested in a divine kingdom-level profession. However, he still decided to buy it and toss it into the Myriad Races Legacy Tower. He would just treat it as adding more treasures to the Myriad Races Inheritance Tower. How many mist cores do these 3 goods cost? Zhou Fight asked. Yellow Heaven Warlock Class Change Certificate, worth 200 legendary tier mist cores. Card Treasure Sealed Slave Hall, is worth 150,000 legendary tier mist cores. High tier deity level treasure. Encyclopedia of Demonic Tactics, worth 900 legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said. Zhou Fight was amazed. This sealed slave's coffin was actually worth 150,000 legendary tier mist cores? It seemed that he had a very high upper limit. Not bad. A good treasure. Zhou Fight grabbed out 151,100 legendary tier mist cores and handed them to Zhou Qingmin. Thank you for your business. Zhou Qingmin accepted it with a smile. Zhou Fight nodded. Then, he directly threw Yellow Heaven Warlock Class Change Certificate into the Military Merit Exchange system and quickly memorized Encyclopedia of Demonic Tactics. Then, he handed it to Wuxia and let her copy it into the Myriad Races Inheritance Tower. Finally, he threw the card, the sealed slave's coffin, into his king's treasure vault before turning around and leaving the Lord's shop. At the same time, Zhou Manage was already in the Blazing Sun Palace, dealing with today's government affairs. However, before long, Zheng Yuanqi suddenly strolled over from afar and quickly arrived in front of him. Your Majesty, those people of foreign races who accepted the letter of surrender have just arrived at the border of our Blazing Sun Kingdom with all the compensation resources, soldiers and god spirits stipulated in the letter of surrender. They are currently stationed in the military fortress of Twilight City. Zheng Yuanqi reported. Have you arranged for them to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom? Zhou Manage stopped working and gazed up at Zheng Yuanqi. It's over. They are now subjects of our Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zheng Yuanqi replied. That's good. Zhou Manage nodded and stood up. Let's go, Prime Minister. Let's go and see these new citizens of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. They were all representing the same race after all. It was impossible for Zhou Manage, the king who temporarily replaced Zhou Zhou, to not even show his face. That would be underestimating the other party. Even so, the other party would not have any objections. As the owner of Zhou Zhou's administrative personality, Zhou Manage still felt that it was better to make a trip. On the way there, Zheng Yuanqi also told Zhou Manage about the people of foreign races who have been persuaded to surrender. Because the number of people of foreign races who have surrendered has increased again, this time, it's not 104 billion people of foreign race soldiers and 1,040 people of foreign race god spirits. It's a total of 170 billion people of foreign race soldiers and 1,700 god spirits. Now, they have already become soldiers and god spirits of our Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zheng Yuanqi smiled. The soldiers were easy to deal with. However, 1,700 god spirits was definitely not a small number, even for the current Blazing Sun Kingdom. As the Prime Minister of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, he was overjoyed to see the kingdom's power increase again. Zhou Manage also smiled. These soldiers and god spirits came at the right time, he sighed. On the other side, Zhou Fight welcomed a large group of god spirit friends. They were the 100-plus human god spirits carried by the Yellow Emperor, Buddha Lord, Patriarch Lu, and by he. Among them were Sun Wukong, Yang Jian Neza, Starlord Wuxia, Patriarch Zhen Yuan, Goddess of Holy Land, and other human god spirits that Zhou Fight was familiar with. Together with Zhou Zhou, they had resisted the previous invasion of the Scarlet Alliance army. There were also some new human god spirits that Zhou had never seen before. When Zhou saw this, he was even more confident in today's battle. Chapter 1057 Going to the Shadow Clan. Greetings, Patriarch. The god spirits of the human race greeted Zhou respectfully. Among them, Sun Wukong, Yang Jian Neza, and the other gods who had once fought alongside Zhou looked at the current Zhou fight and could not help but sigh. The last time they fought together, this blazing Sun King was only their human speaker. He was even the sixth speaker of the human race, who was ranked at the bottom. How long had it been? The other party had already surpassed all the speakers and become the master of the human race? If not for the fact that they had already learned about this Regal's terrifying power and contributions to the human race through the Yellow Emperor and the others, they would probably have shouted that it was shady. At the same time, when Zhou saw the gods bowing to him, he nodded slightly without avoiding them. Then, he solemnly shouted, "There's going to be a big fight today. The target of the war is the enemy of the human race, the Shadow Clan. We have a long-standing grudge with the Shadow Clan. In fact, the last time we humans retreated to the primordial world, the Shadow Clan even joined forces with the other races to stop us from retreating to the primordial world. They wanted us to be exterminated on the High Continent. Let's end this unrelenting hatred today. Everyone, are you ready? I've long been prepared. Kill it, and turn the world upside down. The Shadow Clan killed several of my good brothers and made it impossible for my cultivation to improve in this life. I must give them an explanation today. Patriarch, when are we going to fight?" The gods were agitated, and their expressions were filled with malevolent killing intent and anger. Obviously, they all had some enmity with the Shadow Clan. Our soldiers complete their job transitions. We will immediately head to the Shadow Clan's territory after all. Zhou shouted. When the gods heard this, they gripped their divine weapons tightly. None of the god spirits were afraid to fight at this moment. Zhou nodded slightly. Not bad. As expected of the deity of the human race. At the very least, he didn't show any signs of cowardice before the battle. It had to be known that he had already asked the Yellow Emperor and the others to tell these gods that the Shadow Clan might have accumulated troops and the number of god spirits. Even so, they were not afraid. Such courage had already surpassed many god spirits. Even though the war hasn't started yet, I can tell you in advance that the strength of our human side is definitely not weaker than the enemy's. Especially in terms of military strength. We've already far surpassed each other. And it's the same for the number of god spirits and true god tiers. Zhou said this under the shocked gazes of the god spirits. Zhou said this under the shocked gazes of the god spirits. They had already learned from the Yellow Emperor that their patriarch already controlled trillions of troops after all. But what did it mean when it came to the number of god spirits and true god tiers? Didn't the information they received say that the Shadow Clan would have more than 3,000 people of foreign race god spirits, and at least 20 true god tier existences stationed in the Shadow Clan today? There were so many god spirits and true god tiers in the human race now? They thought in disbelief. Zhou saw the confusion in their eyes and said, "I can tell you something first. Just now, my blazing Sun Kingdom added 170 billion people of foreign race soldiers, 1,700 god spirits of foreign races, and a large amount of war compensation and resources. They came because of the people of foreign races who stopped us humans from retreating to the primordial world. Now that they've accepted the letter of surrender sent by this king, they're under this king's command. These god spirits and soldiers were sent to join our blazing Sun Kingdom because of the agreement to persuade them to surrender." As soon as these words were spoken, the god spirits of the human race were shocked. 170 billion people of foreign race soldiers, and 1,700 god spirits. Just these soldiers and god spirits far exceeded the total number of troops and god spirits at the peak of the human race. But then they frowned slightly. If that was all, it still couldn't compare to the total number of god spirits in the Shadow Clan's territory, especially the total number of true god tier. When Zhou saw this, how could he not guess what they were thinking? He smiled and said, Everyone, I think you must still have doubts. But let me keep you in suspense first. When we fight with the Shadow Clan, you will naturally understand why the number of true God tier on our side is not inferior to the number of true God tier on the Shadow Clan's side. The gods and true God tier looked at each other. Don't tell me. The Yellow Emperor was deep in thought. He already had a guess in his heart, but when he thought of that possibility, he was still unsure. The Patriarch's ability had long appeared in his personal information. However, could it really do that? When the other god spirits listened Zhou's words, they more or less had some guesses. However, just like the Yellow Emperor, they weren't too sure. And looking at the Patriarch's secrecy, even if they asked, the other party probably wouldn't tell them. They could only give up. Only the Lords of the Star Alliance looked at each other with smiles and anticipation on their faces. After a while, all the violent storm spirit soldiers changed their professions to forbidden mages. Even though this process had cost Zhou 240,000 legendary tier mist cores. However, compared to the gains, it was nothing. Seeing this, Zhou Fight did not waste any more time. He invited 2,000 galaxy over and packed all the soldiers, god spirits, clergymen, war-type lifestyle professionals, war machines, war resources and other living beings and resources related to war. Meanwhile, he boarded the galaxy leader with Zhou, Zhou Zheng, Wuxia, and Yu Qiao, who had rushed over. Then, he led all the galaxy ships into the dark universe and headed for the territory of the Shadow Clan. Inside the galaxy leader, Wuxia gazed at Zhou and his two clones with a calm expression. Yu Qiao, who was beside her, gazed surprised. In fact, Wuxia had long known that Zhou had the doppelganger technique. However, she did not tell Yu Qiao, so Yu Qiao gazed surprised. However, Wuxia was the same. Even though she knew that Zhou had two clones, this was the first time she had seen two clones beside him at the same time. Are you used to it? Zhou asked with a smile. It's okay. Wuxia nodded. There were all kinds of strange skills in the highest continent. The skills of the clones were considered very ordinary. It was just that the talent of the clone was very little. Zhou's heart stirred when he listened this. He viewed Zhou manage and Zhou transform into two 9-colored streams of light that flew into Zhou's body and fused with him. After receiving the replenishment of his two clones, Zhou could not help but take a deep breath. He sensed that his strength had boosted by more than 2 to 3 times. Even though it's not bad, it's still inferior to the king. Zhou shook his head inwardly. Chapter 1058 Pseudo-Race Divine Artifact Shadow Canopy. His law skill, King, had already advanced to the low-tier deity level intermediate grade with his comprehension, and a king at this level could already mobilize 2% of the territory's subjects. A total of 2% of subjects. What kind of concept was this? He now had more than 1,280 billion soldiers under him, including the subjects of the various races without extraordinary tier powers. There were nearly 100 trillion of them. There were nearly 100 trillion subjects. Apart from the human subjects and the subjects he had subdued through the extermination operation, there were also more than 100 subjects of the people of foreign races who had accepted the surrender letter and joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom. With so many subjects and soldiers, even if Zhou could only mobilize 2% of them, they were still close to 1 trillion extraordinaires. In other words, Zhou could use the power of most of his soldiers, generals and god spirits on himself with a single thought. With so many extraordinaires and god spirits, their combined strength could even allow an ordinary person to become a top-notch true god tier existence. Compared to this, the enhancement of 2 true god tier clones was really nothing. However, as the number of subjects and soldiers under he increased, a problem also appeared. That was, he had encountered a bottleneck. He was unable to use the power of so many extraordinary individuals and god spirits to raise his strength to the level of a master god tier elementary grade. At most, he could only raise his strength to the level of a top true god tier, that was infinitely close to the level of a master god tier elementary grade. He would not be able to continue raising his strength. Master god tiers are all existences who have grasped a complete nomological law. Once you master a complete nomological law and become a master god tier, your combat strength will be incomparable to that of a true god tier. It's normal for me to encounter bottlenecks. With my current strength, even if I advance to the high-tier deity level, I'm afraid I won't be able to raise my strength realm to the master god tier elementary grade through the king. Unless my strength increases to the true god tier elementary grade. At that time, with the support of the power of the king, I might be able to raise my own strength to the master god tier level. It's just that in a short period of time, I can't use normal methods to raise my strength to the true god tier realm. In that case, the additional power of the subjects will be a waste. The best way to resolve this problem is to create more avatars that belong to me, and let my avatars split the power of the subjects equally. Even though this can't create the combat power of a master god tier, it can create a few more combat power clones of top-notch true god tier. It's enough in the current Lord of All Races contest. Zhou Zhou was extremely intelligent and had already come up with a solution. Now my origin energy has almost been replenished. I should be able to create my third clone tomorrow. He had a plan in mind. You brought your clone out today. Is it because of the war against the Shadow Clan today? At this moment, Li Ya's voice woke Zhou Zhou up from his thoughts. Zhou Zhou came back to his senses and nodded. He smiled and said, "That's right. Bring them all over. It's safer." Yes. Li Ya nodded. Then after some hesitation, she couldn't help but say in a low voice, "But Your Majesty, you have a body of gold now. It's best not to take risks easily. We don't know what kind of powerful trump cards the enemy has. If anything happens to you, everything that the Blazing Sun Kingdom, or even the human race possesses might instantly collapse and be destroyed. Your Majesty, you must value your own safety." After saying that, she stared fixedly at Zhou Zhou, as if she was afraid that he would disappear from her sight in the next second. Zhou Zhou was stunned for a moment before silently hugging her. "Don't worry, your husband cherishes his life very much. I want next time. And since your husband dared to come here, he naturally has the confidence to evacuate safely and stay away from danger." Zhou Zhou said softly. This time, he had brought all the Master God tier means of the Holy Flood Dragon Pearl with him. If anything really happened, he could only let the living beings on the high continent see what a Master God tier level destructive power and self-protection ability was. After hearing Zhou Zhou's words, Li Ya, who was in his arms, let out a soft grunt. At this moment, Zhou Zhou and Li Ya suddenly felt the galaxy leader under their feet tremble slightly. Zhou Zhou and Li Ya suddenly felt the galaxy leader under their feet tremble slightly. "Your Majesty, Shadow Clan territory, Shadow Canopy has arrived." When Ya's gentle voice sounded, Zhou Zhou looked at her and said, "Wait for me here." "MHM." Li Ya nodded. Zhou Zhou stroked her hair and flew out of the spaceship. Then he looked up at the sky. At this moment, the sky that should have been filled with sunlight was suddenly covered by a thin black veil, causing the entire territory of the Shadow Clan to be enveloped in a dark shadow that was not illuminated by the sun. Is this a pseudo-racial divine artifact created by the Shadow Clan, Shadow Canopy? Zhou Zhou looked at the black sky and muttered to himself. As an energy life form born from the shadows, once the Shadow Clan escaped the protection of the shadows, their strength would be greatly reduced, and they would become extremely weak. This was the Shadow Clan's innate fatal weakness, just like how the Fire Cry race was afraid of water attribute treasures. If the Shadow Clan was in the shadows, not only would their strength be greatly enhanced, but their bodies would also become extremely powerful, and their recovery ability would also be extremely strong. The Shadow Clan in the shadows and the Shadow Clan outside the shadows could be said to be two completely different races. In order to maintain their peak might to the greatest extent, and not let other races use this fatal weakness to attack them, the Shadow Clan spent tens of thousands of years, spent countless precious resources, killed countless experts of various races, and snatched countless treasures. Only then did they jointly create such a pseudo-race divine artifact, Shadow Canopy. Under the Shadow Canopy, not only would the Shadow Clan obtain the benefit of the Shadow State, but they could also obtain an additional bonus from the race's divine artifact, allowing their combat might to rise to a higher level. At the same time, it would be easier for them to comprehend the shadow law and walk the path of a god spirit. Ever since the shadow canopy was created, the efficiency of the shadow clan producing god spirits had more than doubled. Currently, nearly a third of the god spirits of the shadow clan were affected by the shadow canopy. When advancing to the god spirit realm, the probability of advancing to the god spirit realm increased. It was precisely because of the influence of the shadow canopy on the shadow clan that Zhou sensitively discovered that there was actually an extremely thick layer of strength of faith condensed on the shadow canopy. If another 100,000 years pass, this shadow canopy might really advance to a true species divine artifact under the faith of the Trillion Shadow Clan. When the time comes, with the potential of this shadow clan, they might immediately advance to become a divine kingdom lord faction. What a pity! Zhou squinted at the shadow canopy. It was a pity that he met him. The next second, he abruptly transformed into a 9-colored stream of light and soared up. In the blink of an eye, he flew 1,000,000 meters into the sky. With a thought, he noticed 2 9-colored streams of light fly out from his glabella. Then, he left them on both sides of him, turning into Zhou Fight and Zhou Zheng. Break this shadow canopy with me, Zhou said calmly. Yes, Zhou Fight and Zhou Zheng acknowledged slightly. Chapter 1059 Furious Aces. Lifeless Shadow World. The three of them took out a true god tier Bao-type true god divine artifacts from their king's treasure box at the same time. These 3 true god tier divine artifacts were all different. They were the heavenly divine hunting bow of the law of wind, the demon eye of the dark dragon of the law of light and darkness, and the decaying meteor of the law of time. The 3 of them raised their divine bows and activated king. Instantly, they raised their strength to the level of a top-notch true god tier. Then, they mobilized the chaotic holy power in their bodies and pulled the bowstring to a full moon. At this moment, as the bowstring was pulled taut, 3 heaven and earth phenomena suddenly descended under the shadow canopy. There were countless apocalyptic phenomena of astral winds and divine arrows. There was also the phenomenon of everything decaying and falling when an arrow was shot. Such a huge commotion attracted the attention of countless true god-tier cultivators in the outside world. Then, they saw Zhou, who was about to draw his divine bow and destroy the sky screen. When they saw this, they were immediately shocked and afraid. Even though this arrow had yet to be shot, they had already realized that this common people's regal seemed to have become stronger again. Such a shocking phenomenon naturally could not be hidden from the Shadow Clan, under the Shadow Canopy. Under the Shadow Canopy at the Taiyin Divine Peak, the Temple of Shadows, Aces, the Shadow Clan leader, the true god of assassination and ultimate darkness, was chatting happily with the other true gods of the people of foreign races, who had rushed over to provide support. His expression suddenly changed, and he jerked his head up. At this moment, his gaze seemed to penetrate the ceiling of the Shadow Temple. He saw Zhou, who was 1,000,000 meters high in the sky, his 2 clones, and them raising their arrows to destroy the shadow canopy. Damn it! It's common people's regal. As expected, he came before we were ready. This fellow's ability to hide himself is quite powerful. If he hadn't been preparing to attack our shadow canopy, I probably wouldn't have discovered him by now. Even though they had yet to fight, he had already lost a round just by relying on this method of hiding himself. As for the shadow canopy, he had nothing to worry about. As a pseudo-racial divine artifact, the shadow canopy had considered the problem of being destroyed by invading enemies when it was being forged. Therefore, it had added a large number of true god-tier materials to strengthen its defense, as well as a very small number of Lord God-tier rare materials. Such a large-scale pile of materials caused its defense to be extremely high. Under normal circumstances, only a Master God tier could destroy the Shadow Canopy. But where did the Master God tier come from? This made the Shadow Canopy an existence that could not be destroyed in the eyes of the Shadow Clan. It had protected the Shadow Clan for tens of thousands of years. After hearing his words, the 9 Shadow Clan True God Tiers, and the other 12 people of foreign races, who had rushed over also reacted. They hurriedly looked up and saw the 2 clones of Zhou and him, as well as what they were about to do. How dare you? How dare you take the initiative to come over? Alliance Master, what are you waiting for? Let's do it. This common people's regal probably didn't expect us to have a total of 22 true god tier existences, right? Let's go and kill him now. The day of common people's regal's death is today. Okay. Everyone follow me and kill this arrogant common people's regal. When Aces listened the god's words, she agreed without hesitation. He had more than 300 billion soldiers, 3,600 god spirits, and 22 true god tiers. There was no lack of top true god tiers, who were advanced grade true gods. With such a huge lineup, not to mention the blazing sun kingdom right in front of him, even if it was a beginner-level divine kingdom lord faction. As long as the other party did not have divine kingdom soldier types or master god tier methods, he would dare to bring the Shadow Clan to fight. He looked at the other true god tier of the Shadow Clan, who was wearing a grayish-black tight short-sleeved shirt, and threw a token that emitted a shadow aura to him. Jacro, this common people's regal should have brought his soldiers over. It's said that the enemy's military strength has reached hundreds of billions. Quickly take my Tian divine token, and gather all the soldiers of our race, and the alliance. Then attack common people's regal together. If you're stopped by common people's regal's soldiers along the way, kill all the common people's regal's soldiers with our god spirits. Don't try to incite surrender this guy's soldiers. Those top bloodline races have already done experiments for us. It's impossible for the common people's regal's soldiers to be under the effect of incite surrender. He ordered. Yes, Patriarch. Jacro nodded. Then, he left to gather the soldiers and god spirits without another word. Aces did not waste any more time. He brought the other 20 true god tiers, and soared out of the Temple of Shadows. Then, they turned into 20 streams of light, and flew towards Zhou and the others in the sky. Soon, they reached a height of more than 200,000 meters. At this moment, 11 figures flew over from not far away, and blocked the path that these people of foreign race true god tier had to pass through. They were the Yellow Emperor Buddha Lord, Patriarch Lu, Bai He True God Shenghua, Original Sin, and Demon Hunter True God, Geralt Heavenly Dragon God Kika, Blazing Sun True God, Heros Demon Flood Dragon Race True God, Dickens Abyssal Dragon Nazario Light Sacred Dragon Ingersoll. Among the 11 Dao supremacies, the Yellow Emperor and the others were all true god tier existences. As for Nazario and Ingersoll, even though they were not in the true god tier realm, they had combat power close to that of a true god. They could fight with a true god for a period of time without risking their lives. How dare a mere 9 true god tiers stop us? Aces shouted. Among them, there were 3 high-level true god tier experts, 6 mid-level true god tier experts, and the rest were low-level true god tier experts. In terms of strength alone, it far exceeded the Blazing Sun Kingdom's lineup. No wonder he didn't take true god tiers like the Yellow Emperor seriously. However, even so, Aces was also a little surprised. How long had it been since the Blazing Sun Kingdom had obtained so many true god tier combatants? Thinking of this, Aces became more and more afraid. At the same time, she became more and more determined to demolish the common people's regal and his Blazing Sun Kingdom. True god tiers of the Shadow Clan, listen up. Activate the lifeless Shadow Realm, and kill these Blazing Sun Kingdom true god tiers. He shouted. Yes. The other 9 Shadow Clan true god tiers replied loudly. Then, they quickly formed seals with their hands, and chanted spells at the same time. Then, they pointed at the shadow under Patriarch Lu and the others. A black stream of air instantly soared out from their fingertips, and rushed into the shadow under their feet. The next second, Bai He and the other true god tiers of the 9 Blazing Sun Kingdoms had all fallen into their shadows, leaving only a shadow beneath their feet that they couldn't get rid of. The Yellow Emperor and the Buddha Lord, the only 2 remaining intermediate grade true god tier experts, immediately turned grim. They looked across only to see Shadow Clan true god tier, who had used the lifeless Shadow Realm, had already disappeared. It was obvious that he had already entered the lifeless shadow realm for a 1v1 battle with the other true god-tier humans. Only Aces and the other 13 people of foreign race true god tier were left. Leave 2 intermediate grade true gods behind to deal with these 2 human true gods. The other true god tiers, follow me to deal with that common people's regal. Aces ordered. Obviously, he did not take the Yellow Emperor and the Buddha Lord seriously, even if they were mid-level true god tier experts. Only Zhou was the greatest threat in his heart. It would not be too late to deal with the other true god tiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom after dealing with Zhou and establishing the victory. Sure, the 2 of us will stop them. A pair of people of foreign race true god tier stood out and looked at the Yellow Emperor and the Buddha Lord with a sinister smile, as if they were 2 lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Aces nodded and led the other 10 true god tiers to fly past the Yellow Emperor and the others in the direction of Zhou and the others. The Yellow Emperor and company did not stop them. The 2 of them were indeed unable to stop it after all. Let's deal with these 2 guys first. Then, immediately go and support the Patriarch. The Yellow Emperor stated to the Buddha Lord. The Buddha Lord nodded solemnly. You sure know how to brag. You're going to help your Patriarch after we're done? Don't you 2 have a clear understanding of yourselves? The true god tiers of these 2 people of foreign races were so angry that they laughed. Everyone was an intermediate true god tier god spirit. Why did these 2 fellows think that they could deal with him in a short period of time and still have the energy to help others? Wait, Patriarch. At this moment, one of the people of foreign race true god tier suddenly frowned and stared at the Yellow Emperor and the others. Are you calling the common people's regal Patriarch? Are you kidding me? What qualifications does he have to be your Patriarch? The 2 true god tiers of the people of foreign races felt that they had listened wrongly. No matter how powerful the common people's regal was, it was impossible for him to transform a Patriarch now, right? However, the Yellow Emperor and Patriarch Lu didn't waste their breath. They directly retrieved their 6 true god tier divine artifacts and brazenly attacked the 2 people of foreign races true god tiers, whose expressions changed drastically. Chapter 1069 Arrows Falling from the Sky. On the other side, Aces had already led 10 true god tiers to a spot less than 10,000 meters away from Zhou and company. Common people's regal. Today is the day you die. Aces was extremely excited. After eliminating the common people's regal, the Shadow Clan would definitely shine in the eyes of many top bloodline races. They might even attract the attention of those master god tier existences. As long as they seized this opportunity, it was not impossible for the Shadow Clan to advance to a Divine Kingdom Lord faction in the future, or even become an Overlord-level Lord faction, with a Master God tier overseeing it. Zhou and company did not reply. But behind them, cold-looking guards in grayish-white armor appeared in front of Aces and the others. Each of them exuded the aura of a low-tier deity-level intermediate grade, and there were a total of 500 of them. All the God Spirit guards protected Zhou and the others behind them, preventing them from advancing at all. A mere God Spirit dares to stop us true God tiers. Truly. Aces had a contemptuous expression and was about to forcefully break through the defenses of these God Spirit guards. But at that moment, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of panic. It was as if he would definitely meet an end if he dared to charge forward. God spirits at the true God tier level trusted their intuition very much. The premonition in their hearts was no longer a simple feeling, as beings of extremely high status, but would be related to the legendary law of fate. Therefore, their premonitions would either not come, or once they appeared, they would usually not be wrong. Hence Aces cowered. The other true God tiers had the same premonition, so they also stopped. They looked at these God Spirit guards with fear and suspicion on their faces. What kind of path are these God spirits walking on? Why would true God tiers like us have such a ridiculous feeling? Why does this common people's regal have so many trump cards? Is he really just a lord of a myriad races? The rumors are right. Common people's regal is indeed very difficult to kill. The true God tiers began to discuss telepathically. It's the instant death law. There's also the law of shattering. At this moment, a true god tier who was good at sensing auras and probing the enemy's background said. He was snow white and naked. There was only a blood-colored crescent moon between his brows. It looked very beautiful and strange. It was a true god from the Blood Moon tribe, true god Xian Mei. The law of instant death and the law of shattering. What right does this common people's regal have to control such a heaven-defying god-spirit army? Really? As soon as he said that, it immediately attracted the exclamations of Aces and the other true god tiers. When they looked at the 500 final guard members again, the fear in their eyes intensified, and they were even a little frightened. When they looked at the 500 final guard members again, the fear in their eyes intensified, and they were even a little frightened. Among them, the Lord's law was the most powerful law that could allow one to fight across realms. What followed closely were probably the two laws with absolute attributes, instant death and shattering. These two nomological laws could even allow a mortal to kill all living beings, or even god spirits who were not immune to instant death, and shattering nomological laws under extremely good luck. Coincidentally, not a single god spirit present was immune to these two special absolute attribute laws. 500 gods who are capable of instant death and shattering laws. Even Master God tier probably doesn't have such a special god spirit army. What right does this common people's regal have to control such a heaven-defying god spirit army? The true god tier looked at the 500 final guards with envy and jealousy. At this moment, another true god tier of the Een Ghost clan suddenly reminded, common people's regal is going to shoot an arrow. When Aces heard this, she immediately looked over with the other true god tiers of the people of foreign races. Even though he wasn't worried that the Shadow Clan's shadow canopy would be destroyed by Zhou, he could at least see the laughable expression on common people's regal's face when he realized that he couldn't destroy the shadow canopy. However, the next scene made his expression suddenly change. After Zhou and his two clones activated the power of their respective true god tier divine artifacts through their top-notch true god tier chaotic sacred power, they did not immediately release their arrows. Instead, they used their law skills, the myriad methods star palm, and gathered the power of their palms on this arrow. If it was in the past, he definitely couldn't do such a delicate thing. However, during this period of time, Zhou and company would study the laws and hone their combat techniques in the time world whenever they had the time. Therefore, they had barely grasped such exquisite offensive techniques. The next second, they suddenly released their bowstrings, turning the bows on the three divine bows into three terrifying divine lights that shot towards the shadow canopy in the sky. Boom! 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 The three arrows crossed a long distance almost at the same time and landed on the surface of the shadow canopy. Crack, crack, crack! This covered the entire territory of the Shadow Clan, and the shadow canopy that had protected the Shadow Clan for countless years shook violently. Then, with the arrow as the center, terrifying cracks that were 70 to 80 million kilometers long quickly spread in all directions. Wisps of sunlight seeped down from the crack and shone on this dark and gloomy place, bringing warmth and light to this area that had not been seen for a long time. Oh no! Avoid the light of the sun! Jacro, who was gathering the soldiers and god spirits of the Shadow Clan, and preparing to work with the true gods to kill the soldiers and god spirits of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, suddenly revealed a terrified expression when he saw this scene. He immediately ordered all the Shadow Clan soldiers to avoid the sunlight. However, it was too late. How fast was the speed of light? Many Shadow Clan soldiers did not even have time to react before the sunlight shone on their bodies. All the Shadow Clan members who were illuminated by the sunlight wailed one after another. Their bodies twisted unnaturally and fell to the ground. At the same time, large amounts of shadow smoke evaporated from the surface of their bodies. Their aura and might also weaken rapidly. This Shadow Clan true god tier's eyes immediately widened seeing this scene. High up in the sky, when the Shadow Clan's patriarch, Aces, saw this scene, his eyes widened in disbelief. Stop! Common people's regal! If you don't stop and continue to destroy our race's divine artifact, the Shadow Clan swears to fight you to the death. Aces looked up at Zhou and his clone and roared at the sky. Tisk! As expected of a pseudo-race divine artifact. Even if it's fake, its sturdiness is still impressive. Zhou could not help but be surprised when he saw that he and his clones could not destroy the shadow canopy after 3 arrows. Then, as if he didn't hear Isis shout, he continued to draw his bow and shoot the second round of divine arrows. Boom boom boom. Under this round of divine arrows, the entire shadow canopy was immediately shattered into pieces, looking like it was on the verge of collapse. When Zhou and company saw this, they shot another round of divine arrows. After this round of volleys, the shadow canopy finally could not hold on anymore. It turned into a phantom and floated down weakly. Finally, it landed in Zhou's hand with the chaotic sacred power. He looked at the broken pseudo-racial divine artifact and casually threw it into his king's treasure box. Then, he leisurely turned to look at Aces. The wind was too strong just now, so I didn't hear you clearly. What did you just say? Zhou asked deliberately. Common people's regal. You've ruined the future of the Shadow Clan. From today onwards, the Shadow Clan and you will definitely fight to the death. Aces roared at Zhou with reddened eyes. You should try your best to survive today first. Zhou said calmly. Chapter 1061. Battle of the Shadow Clan. 1. Aces and the other true god tiers were furious after hearing Zhou's words. Do you think that you're invincible with these divine spirit guards, who have mastered the laws of shattering and instant death? Aces said with a cold expression. If it's another race, they might really be unable to do anything to you. But you should never have come to my Shadow Clan. He looked at Zhou. 2 black rays of light shot out from his eyes that were as black crystal. With lightning speed, they instantly shone on Zhou's body. Zhou watched this scene calmly, as if he was not surprised by this move. The next second, Zhou and Aces, the 2 strongest patriarchs of their respective races, disappeared on the spot. In the sky, only Zhou managed Zhou fight, and 9 other true god tiers from the opposing people of foreign races were left. Aces has already opened the lifeless shadow realm. He's a top-notch god spirit expert who's a true god tier advanced grade. He also possesses a true god tier divine artifacts. And he even pulled Zhou into the lifeless shadow realm that he's most proud of. The common people's regal will definitely die. Let's get rid of these 2 clones of him first. My innate premonition tells me that if we don't get rid of these 2 clones of the common people's regal, that fellow might make a comeback. True God Tier Xian Mei from the Blood Moon race said solemnly again. True God Tier Xian Mei from the Blood Moon race said solemnly again. They did not dare to underestimate the words of this true god tier. The other party was a true god tier of the Blood Moon race's royal family after all. When he was young, he had even been blessed by the mythical tier lunar star spirit. Now that he had grown up, he could be said to be in existence with high status and unlimited potential in the Blood Moon race. It was very likely that he would become the next patriarch of the Blood Moon race in the future. It was almost impossible for he to be wrong. Don't let these 2 guys escape. The common people's regal's death is today. Don't put up any unnecessary resistance. True God Xian Mei immediately led the other 9 true gods of the people of foreign races and charged towards Zhou Fight and Zhou Jingfei. Seeing this scene, Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan immediately flew in opposite directions. The 9 true god tieress of the people of foreign races immediately split into 2 teams. Among them, true god Xian Mei was the strongest. She led the other 4 true gods of the people of foreign races to chase after Zhou Fight. As for the other 4 true god tiers of the people of foreign races, they went to chase and kill Zhou Manage. Zhou Manage and Zhou Zhan flew for about 100 million kilometers before stopping. Then, they turned around and waited calmly for the true god tiers of the people of foreign races to come to them. Zhou Zhan and I are so far apart. I shouldn't let the aftershocks of the battle hurt my subjects. Zhou Fight pondered. When true god tier Xian Mei and the other true gods of the people of foreign races saw that Zhou Zhan and Zhou Zheng had suddenly stopped running, they were very excited at first. However, they quickly thought of something, and their gazes changed slightly. They carefully observed the two Zhou clones and the surrounding environment, afraid that a large number of troops would ambush them in the next second. Everyone be careful of the common people's regal. That guy is full of tricks. These two clones suddenly didn't run, but stayed where they were and waited for us. They must have some bad intentions. Everyone, quickly check if there are any ambushes or traps around. There's no ambush. I've already used my telepathic thoughts to check the surroundings. I didn't find any traps here either. In the beginning, the true god tiers of the people of foreign races were still very cautious of Zhou and Zhou's abnormal behavior. However, when they realized that there were really no ambushes or traps in the surroundings of Zhou Manage and Zhou, and that they really wanted to face them alone, they were a little embarrassed and angry, but they quickly smiled. You're just two clones of the main body, yet you still dare to try and learn from the common people's regal. It seems like the two of you have been following Zhou for too long, so long that even your brains have become useless. Cut the crap. Kill them, and immediately go and support Aces. Although Aces has already used her trump card, I still feel that it's not safe to leave him alone as a true god tier to deal with the common people's regal. You're right. Quickly kill these two fellows. Under the urging of the true gods, the 9 opposing true gods finally stopped being cautious. They brazenly picked up their divine weapons and displayed all kinds of powerful true god tier law skills as they charged towards Zhou Fight and Zhou. Even though I'm only a lord in administrative matters, don't underestimate my strength. Seeing this scene, Zhou Manage shook his head. He looked at the true god tiers of the people of foreign races with coldness and killing intent in his eyes as he spoke. On the other side, looks like we can have a good fight today. Zhou Fight's performance was the complete opposite of Zhou Manage's. He looked at the 5 true gods of the people of foreign races, including true god Xianmei, and revealed an invincible smile. Boom! Boom! The two of them instantly emitted a terrifying god spirit pressure that was infinitely close to that of a true god tier. Then, they immediately charged towards the group of true gods. Even though these true god tier people of foreign races were shocked by the strength of these two clones at the beginning, as the top powerhouses of their respective races, they had unparalleled confidence in their strength and trump cards. Moreover, this was not a one-on-one battle, but an additional one. Therefore, they were even more fearless. When they saw Zhou Fight and Zhou charging over, they immediately faced the enemy and charged over. Soon, the two sides entered a white-hot battle. At the same time, the true god tier Jacro of the Shadow Clan had already organized more than 300 billion soldiers and more than 3,600 god spirits. He looked at the Shadow Clan soldiers and god spirits, who had become a little dispirited because they no longer had the shadow canopy, and a gloomy expression appeared on his face. The destruction of the shadow canopy was a huge blow to the Shadow Clan, be it in terms of strength or psychology, but when he saw his terrifying military strength and the number of his true god tiers, he felt even more comforted. So what if there's no shadow canopy? The strength of the Shadow Clan and the people of foreign races' allied army still far exceeds that of the common people's regal and his blazing sun kingdom. The number of true god tiers is far inferior to ours. What right does he have to fight us? He said proudly. The strength of the Shadow Clan and the people of foreign races' allied army still far exceeds that of the common people's regal and his blazing sun kingdom. The other powerful true god tiers of the people of foreign races were fighting crazily with Zhou and Zhou. The intensity of the battle made even him, the experienced true god tier of the Shadow Clan, click his tongue. As for the common people's regal and his patriarch, Jacro didn't need to think too much about it. He knew that the common people's regal must have been imprisoned in the shadow realm by his ecstatic patriarch with his intrinsic divine power, silent shadow realm. He was probably waiting for an opportunity to assassinate him. As he could not see the situation in his patriarch's lifeless shadow realm, Jacro could only look at Zhou Fight and Zhou, who were fighting the 8 true god tiers of the people of foreign races. In the end, what shocked him was that Zhou Fight and Zhou were clearly just 2 clones of the common people's regal. In the end, Their combat strength was not inferior to Zhou at all. In fact, they were even suppressing the 4 to 5 true god tiers on their side. Every time the incomparably terrifying myriad methods star palm was executed, it was as if it had the might to destroy the world, and the laws were chaotic. All the top true gods present, including true god Xian Mei, were so afraid that they did not dare to take it head-on, and could only dodge in a sorry state. How's this a clone? It looks even fiercer than the main body, okay? I have to quickly support our true god tier experts. Otherwise, once our true god tier experts are defeated on the battlefield, no matter how many soldiers I have under me, one definitely won't have a chance of winning. Jacro suddenly woke up. Then, he immediately led more than 300 billion troops, and more than 3,600 god spirits, to fly towards the direction of the true god tier that was fighting in the sky. The Alliance's legions began to quickly set up their military formations as they flew. In the blink of an eye, thousands of god spirit-level military formations were set up. Just as they were about to charge into the true god tier battlefield and interfere in the battle between true gods, splash, countless weapons clashed. Then, a sea of soldiers appeared from the void and immediately flew in front of them like an iron wall, blocking their way up. 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, 1 trillion. In less than a moment, 1 trillion soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom appeared in the sky above the Shadow Clan's territory. They could naturally choose to fly, while the new recruits who had yet to master the ability to fly carried the free equipment of the new recruits, the Fear Falcon wings, and flew in the sky together. The sunlight that shone down from the sky landed on the bodies of all the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, making them look as sacred and dignified as heavenly troops. They did not dare to invade or stop them. When these more than 300 billion Shadow Clan soldiers saw these Empire-level soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, they were actually afraid of the aura emitted by them, and did not dare to go forward. When they realized that there were actually more than 2,400 powerful and magical gods hidden among these 10 trillion Imperial soldier types, their hearts sank. This isn't right. Their patriarch had told them that even though the human race had many soldiers, the number of god spirits was far inferior to theirs when they came. Why was he almost comparable to them in the blink of an eye? At this moment, the White Cloud's cold and resounding voice resounded throughout the entire Shadow Clan territory. Chapter 1062, Battle of the Shadow Clan 3. I am the common people's regal, the 10,000 spirit saint, and the First Legion commander under the Blazing Sun Kingdom's King Bai Yun. We've been waiting for you here for a long time. Those who want to surrender can put down their weapons and say that they are willing to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom. We can spare your lives. If you choose not to surrender and stubbornly resist, there will only be one outcome: death. Bai Yun's calm voice revealed a heavy and bloody killing intent. After several consecutive genocidal wars, he was no longer ignorant. The current he had long surpassed his former teacher, Wuxia, and had become the strongest general in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Surrender! 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 Surrender and surrender! 1 trillion soldiers of the Imperial soldier type, with extraordinary tier power, roared in unison. Their voices almost shook the sky, causing the wind and clouds in the world to change, and the sun and moon to lose their light. Such a huge war power brought incomparable pressure to Jacro and his more than 300 billion soldiers, and more than 3,600 god spirits. Many soldiers and god spirits looked hesitant, and even terrified. At this moment, they already had the intention to escape. Jacro had experienced countless wars in his life. The soldier's abnormal mentality immediately attracted his attention. Soldiers of my race, hold your breath. Don't be fooled by the threat of the female general. You are soldiers of our Shadow Clan. The people behind you are our race and your family. Do you really want to hand over your future and the lives of your relatives to a human lord? Don't forget that we have a long-standing feud with the human race. Do you think they will let go of the hatred accumulated over the years? In addition, I've already sent the inspectorate to supervise your battle from behind. If any of you choose to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom, don't even think about running to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's camp. I'll promise to wipe out all the defectors among you before you escape from the battlefield to restore the might of our army." After Jackro quickly appeased the morale of the troops, he immediately threatened them without holding back. The soldiers and god spirits of the Shadow Clan shuddered when they heard this. Even though they didn't know what they were thinking, at least on the surface, they didn't dare to go against Jackro, a true god tier. Jackro saw that the hearts of the people were barely maintained by him. Even though his expression was still cold, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. These soldiers and god spirits were the key for the Shadow Clan to defeat the Blazing Sun Kingdom and the common people's regal. He didn't want such an important matter to fall into his hands. Break through the defenses of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers as quickly as possible and support our true god tier. Break through the defenses of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers as quickly as possible and support our true god tiara. Whether it's the Shadow Clan or the soldiers of our other allies, they can accept my reward." Jackro said loudly, but his heart ached. It was easy to say that he would be promoted to a true god tier cultivation resource, but when he thought about handing them over, even Aces would feel heartache for a long time, let alone him. A set of resources to advance to the true god tier was already comparable to a set of treasures at the racial foundation level after all. Even the original spirit race and the Chaos Gods race did not dare to underestimate resources of this level. They were now preempting the foundation of their race in advance to forcefully increase their morale. The eyes of the Shadow Clan soldiers and the soldiers of the people of foreign races turned red when they heard Jackro's words. If they were really lucky enough to obtain this set of resources to advance to the true god tier, and were extremely lucky to advance to the true god tier, it could completely be described as reaching the heavens in a single step. Even if they felt that even if they had the resources to advance to the true god tier, they were not confident that they could advance to the true god tier. If they sold it, it would be enough to create a deity family that had lasted for tens of thousands of years. At this moment, most of the Shadow Clan soldiers and god spirits went crazy. They erupted with all their strength and charged in the direction of the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers. It was as if as long as they rushed over, they would be able to obtain a ticket to become a true god tier. Bai Yin Wu Xian, Guoqiao, Qi Xintian, Yuan Song, Ying Ning, the generals and the god spirits watched the scene with cold expressions. The morale is not bad. However, the most fundamental factor that determines the outcome of a war is still true strength. Recklessness is not enough to create a world, Bai Yin said lightly. With that, her eyes narrowed as she gave an order. All the Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers will rush out to hunt these enemy soldiers and protect the forbidden mage spellcasters behind us. They can cast spells normally. If a soldier from the people of foreign races rushes out of your killing circle and goes to His Majesty, you can go to the Punisher Bureau to receive your punishment tonight. All the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom roared. Then they saw the Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers standing in the front row charging towards the Shadow Clan soldiers and people of foreign races with sinister smiles. Under the protection of the Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers, the forbidden spellcasters began to wave their wands and chant forbidden spells. Then, they began to cast forbidden spells one after another, bombarding the Shadow Clan soldiers and the people of foreign races. At that time, the more than 300 billion Shadow Clan soldiers, the people of Foreign Race Alliance soldiers, and the more than 3,600 hostile god spirits were instantly beaten into a mess. These guys were stunned as soon as they exchanged blows. At the same time, high up in the sky, Zhou Fight and Zhou Zheng suddenly teleported together and looked at the battle below. I'll feel that even if we don't take action, our soldiers and gods can easily win. Zhou Fight crossed his arms and looked at the scene calmly as he commented, "Hurry up and attack. I don't want these people of foreign races to be killed by our soldiers." Zhou Manage said helplessly, "You can use the 10,000 Spirit Saint. I'll protect you." Zhou Fight shook his head. "Sure." Zhou Manage also knew the other party's personality. He didn't hesitate and immediately released the 10,000 Spirit Saint, the only mythical tier lord talent. An invisible wave instantly spread to the entire Shadow Clan territory, with Zhou Manage's palm as the center. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire Shadow Clan territory, and a text notification appeared. Prompt: you have activated your mythical tier unique lord talent, 10,000 Spirit Saint. All spirits see you as a supreme saint and long to follow you. Lord Talent Notification 1. There are approximately 3,215 trillion ordinary Shadow Clan members, 30 billion Black Iron Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 70 billion Green Bronze Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 5 billion White Silver Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 69 billion Yellow Gold Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 12 billion White Platinum Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 219 billion Diamond Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 223 billion Extraordinary Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 320 million Epic Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 125 million Legendary Tier Shadow Clan soldiers, 1,035 Low-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits, 400 Mid-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits, 112 High-Tier Deity Level Shadow Clan God Spirits. 11 True God Tier Shadow Clan God Spirits broke away from their lords and became your loyal followers. Lord Talent Notification 2. You have obtained a Spellcaster, Jiashi, Mid-Tier Deity Level Advanced Grade. Chapter 1063. Battle of the Shadow Clan 3. Just as Zhou Manage finished casting the lifeless Shadow Realm, in the Shadow Clan's true god, Ace's lifeless Shadow Realm, Zhou, who was hovering in the air, looked at the 10,000 Spirit Saints talent notification that had suddenly appeared in front of him, and a smile appeared on his face. Not bad. After this round of 10,000 Spirit Saints, he had directly obtained more than 3,000 trillion ordinary Shadow Clan members. In other words, there were more than 6,000 trillion Shadow Clan members in the entire Shadow Clan territory. As expected of a powerful race that could firmly suppress the human race at Imperial Lord Pangu's peak. It was obvious just from the number of ordinary subjects. In addition, this time, the 10,000 Spirit Saint had also brought him a total of 162, 3,053 to 76 million soldiers, and 1,547 God Spirits. Most importantly, he had also brought the loyalty of 11 true God tiers to Zhou. One had to know that he only had 5 true gods under him, excluding Carol Moeli, who was a special true god tier. This shot from the 10,000 Spirit Saint directly doubled the number of true god tiers. It was comparable to the number of true god tiers in the human race. This is the strength of the mythical tier-only Lord Talent. Zhou sighed. With a thought, he gave the order to all the soldiers and god spirits who had been incited by insight defection to counterattack internally. Then, he looked at the lifeless shadow realm in front of him. This was a dark world formed by the power of shadows. He was boundless and incomparably dark. If ordinary supernatural beings were here, they would probably lose their way immediately and be lost in this world forever. Zhou naturally did not have such a problem. He even calmly enjoyed the scenery of the lifeless shadow world for a while before looking at a dark corner not far away and suddenly striking out with his palm. The myriad method star palm. A starry sky divine palm that was filled with the stars of the divine kingdom suddenly flew out and quickly smashed into the dark corner. Ah! A scream sounded. Then, a figure as thick as ink flew out and landed in the air not far away. It was Aces. At that moment, he had one hand covering half of his body that was constantly turning into black fog and dissipating as he looked at Zhou with fear. "You actually discovered me?" he said in disbelief. The lifeless shadow realm was the intrinsic divine power of the Shadow Clan. The shadow realm summoned was almost as strong as a world, especially since he was a true god tier. The lifeless shadow realm he summoned was not inferior to an ordinary middle world. As the master of the lifeless shadow realm, he was almost equivalent to the heavenly Tao of this world. Normally speaking, unless it was in existence at the level of a master god tier or above, It was impossible to discover his hiding location. How did the common people's regal find out? Zhou did not explain. Isis' lifeless shadow realm was indeed not bad. But he was not only a chaos human. He was also born with astonishing sixth senses, and could sense many difficult things and existences. He had also reached the realm of willpower that only Master God tier had. He had just used his willpower to sense it slightly, and he had easily found this fellow's hiding place. So what if you can see through my invisibility technique? You're still going to die today. Isis' expression was cold as a dagger silently appeared in her right hand. This dagger was completely black, and only the handle had a crescent moon symbol that was as white as jade. This was the true God tier divine artifacts that only the Shadow Clan's clan leader could inherit. Ace's true God tier title was Assassination and Darkest True God tier. Most of it came from this true God tier intermediate grade divine artifact. You should feel honored to die under my clan's inherited divine artifact, Ace said in a low voice. Then, his divine body quietly disappeared from the lifeless shadow realm. The next second, he suddenly appeared behind Zhou. The dark moon shadow blade in his hand turned into a black light and stabbed at the back of Zhou's head. He wanted to pierce through common people's regal's brain and even his divine spark, thereby killing he in one strike. But in the next moment, clang! A sound that sounded like a sharp weapon piercing the steel city wall sounded. Ace's dark moon shadow blade only managed to pierce the surface of Zhou's skin. After that, it couldn't go any further. Aces watched this scene with her mouth agape. How is this possible? Could your divine body be forged by defensive true God tier divine artifacts? Aces said in shock. He felt as if his worldview had been overturned. How could there be a God spirit who could defend against the attacks of offensive true God tier divine artifacts, just by relying on his divine body? He gritted his teeth, and his body suddenly transformed into a shadow energy that disappeared from the lifeless shadow realm. Don't waste your time. I can see where you're hiding, Zhou said loudly. With a heaven-defying body like the chaotic divine body in hand, he wouldn't be afraid of these assassins' sneak attacks. That was why he dared to enter the other party's lifeless shadow realm alone. Then, he struck out another myriad methods star palm at a certain shadow. Before the divine palm could land, a pitch-black shadow flew out in advance and dodged the attack of the myriad methods star palm in a sorry state. However, he had dodged it, but the lifeless shadow realm behind he had no way of dodging it. After this palm landed, there was a loud bang, and the entire lifeless shadow realm shook violently. Then, cracks spread in all directions from where the divine palm landed. In less than 4 to 5 seconds rumble, the lifeless shadow world, which was comparable to a middle world, exploded with a bang and turned into shadow fog that flew in all directions before quickly disappearing into the air. After all the shadow fog disappeared, Ice's body trembled as he barely maintained his altitude. The aura on his body had already weakened by more than half. His intrinsic divine power, the lifeless shadow realm, was related to his life. Now that his intrinsic divine power had been destroyed, he naturally suffered heavy injuries. My lifeless shadow realm, my inherited divine artifact. He looked at the dark moon shadow blade while his hand was trembling. He never expected that his two strongest aspects would be completely crushed by the other party. Then, he thought of something. His eyes changed slightly, but in the end they became firm. He looked up at Zhou with a thought. A temporarily created world of shadows was created as the newest battlefield for the two true God tiers, he and Zhou. At the same time, Zhou looked at Aces and felt a sense of danger. He narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the other party. He thought of the information that Wu Tu had told he about the Shadow Tribe's trump cards. Without any hesitation, he struck out 3 consecutive palm strikes, determined to kill Aces. He wasn't the kind of person who would let the other party use his trump card against him despite knowing that the other party had a trump card. The danger was to strangle him in the bud. The 3 myriad methods star palms arrived in front of Aces almost instantly. Chapter 1064. Master God Tier Artifact, Great Lunar Lifeless Demon Blade. Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Boom. Boom. The first two strikes of the Myriad Method's star palm directly struck the other party's body, shattering his divine body. At the same time, his aura instantly weakened to the extreme, as if he was about to die in the next second. However, just as the third strike of the Myriad Method's star palm was about to destroy the other party's final life force, a palm-sized Great Lunar Stone sculpture suddenly appeared in front of Aces. The Great Lunar Stone sculpture was completely jade-like and emitted a noble and holy moonlight. A supreme aura that ruled over the Een emitted from its body. "I'm the current patriarch of the Shadow Clan Aces. Cough cough, am willing to sacrifice my life. Regal Great Lunar, please take action and destroy the enemy who wants to destroy our race," Aces said in a weak, hoarse, and determined voice. The surroundings were silent. It was as if this Great Lunar Stone sculpture had no reaction to Isis' words at all. When Zhou saw this, he did not hesitate to strike again, killing this true God-tier advanced grade shadow race patriarch completely. After killing it, Zhou instantly felt that his promotion energy requirements for advancing to low-tier deity level advanced grade had been completely satisfied. He could advance to the low-tier deity level advanced grade, as long as he had enough law comprehension. However, he wasn't paying attention to this at the moment. He was staring intently at the Great Lunar Stone sculpture. "I've already killed him. He wouldn't emerge now, right?" Zhou frowned. After waiting for a while and seeing no reaction from him, Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. He walked forward and prepared to put away the Great Lunar Stone sculpture. This was a Master God tier level treasure, so he naturally could not waste it. However, just as he was about to fly over, he saw the Great Lunar Stone sculpture tremble slightly. Following that, wisps of clear moonlight emitted from the surface of its body. With it as the core, he quickly constructed an existence that wore a moon-white holy robe. Its body was transparent, and its face was blurry. It was the phantom of the regal Great Lunar, that was as famous as the sun star. Facing this existence that was even stronger than the abyss will, Zhou could not help but take a deep breath. Even though he had already heard about this Great Lunar Stone sculpture from Wutu before he came, but when facing this legendary existence, he still felt an incomparable pressure. Regal Great Lunar is a top-notch god spirit of the heavenly pantheon. Together with Regal Sun, he controls all the heavenly gods in the myriad worlds. He can be said to be the god emperor among the heavenly gods. At the same time, he is the same as Regal Great Solar, also a natural-born regal. In terms of strength and status, they are even higher than the Supreme God Realm, and even the Abyss M/Il, second only to the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. As expected of an existence born as a regal, Zhou muttered in his heart. He was an acquired regal. Of course, the difference between a born regal and an acquired regal was actually not that big. There was also a possibility that an acquired regal could catch up, or even surpass an innate regal. Hence, Zhou did not belittle himself. At this moment, the phantom of the regal Great Lunar looked at Zhou. Right on the heels of that, a holy white divine light shot out from his body and shot straight at Zhou. That incomparably terrifying pressure was undoubtedly an attack at the Master God tier level. When Zhou saw this, he immediately reacted quickly and put on a black armor. As soon as the black armor possessed him, it immediately spread to his entire body, enveloping him, without revealing any gaps. In the next moment, the holy white divine light landed on Zhou's black helmet that extended out of his black armor. A magical scene happened. After the holy white divine light hit the black helmet, there was no earth-shattering explosion. Instead, it was slowly and laboriously sucked into the helmet like water melting in the ground. After a while, the divine light from the regal Great Lunar Phantom was actually absorbed by the black helmet. Regal Great Lunar didn't do anything else when he saw this. His entire phantom turned into countless lunar rays of light and dissipated in the air, leaving behind a dull gray spherical stone. Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I was prepared. I specially prepared an Earth Elemental Master God Level 1 time-use defensive treasure, Black Mountain Divine Earth, to block this Een Elemental attack. Otherwise, there might really be some danger, and I might waste my resurrection counts when in a hurry. He muttered to himself. Then, with a thought, the black piece of soil trembled, and then disintegrated into countless powders that dissipated in the air. Looks like it has reached its limit after absorbing a round of attacks from the regal Great Lunar Phantom. Zhou felt that it was a pity. However, when he thought of the possible loots on Aces, he couldn't help but smile. That guy had a true god-level intermediate-grade divine artifact, Dark Moon Shadow Blade. If he extracted his spoils of war this time, he would definitely be able to obtain a Master God tier intermediate-grade divine artifact. Compared to the Master God divine artifact, this loss was nothing. Thinking of this, he immediately looked up at the gray spherical stone not far away and Isis' broken divine body behind it. Zhou waved his right hand, and the gray spherical stone and broken divine body flew over and landed in his hand. A magical scene happened. After landing in his hands, the gray stone, which had been dim a moment ago, seemed to have been replenished and restored from a mysterious place. In the blink of an eye, it became jade-like again. In fact, the pure moonlight and supreme aura it emitted were several times stronger than when it was in Isis' hands. Zhou looked at it. The item information appeared. Treasure name: Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Treasure grade: Master God tier elementary grade. Treasure effect: summon the spirit of the Great Lunar Stone sculpture. It can release a divine light attack that is comparable to Master God tier elementary grade. Treasure description: originally, it was just a great lunar spirit stone that wanted to polish itself into the shape of a lunar star. Later on, the supreme and holy regal Great Lunar discovered the other party and cast a gaze on it, creating this Master God tier Great Lunar Emperor's Vision Divine Stone. Current usage of the Great Lunar Divine Light: 0 out of 1 prompt. With the enhancement of your Collector's Lord talent, the current usage of the Great Lunar Divine Light has increased to 4/4, so the main body of this thing is actually a conscious Great Lunar Spirit Stone. Just because of regal Great Lunar's gaze, his grade was raised to the level of a Master God tier, and even became the trump card of a powerful race. Zhou could not help but click his tongue. This origin was too ridiculous. Moreover, regal Great Lunar was indeed in existence second only to the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. A single gaze could actually create a Master God tier treasure. If he encountered the other party would probably kill him with a single glance. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, his gaze landed on Isis' corpse as he carefully studied his spoils of war. After reading it, he revealed a smile. As expected of a true God tier advanced grade patriarch level expert, he had thousands of spoils of war. The weakest among them was a lesser god, and the highest was naturally the intermediate true God tier Dark Moon Shadow Blade. No, it should be called the Great Lunar Demon Blade, a Master God intermediate grade divine artifact. Apart from that, even though there were no other Master God divine artifacts, there were still hundreds of Master God tier medicinal herbs, potions, ores, fruits, seeds, and other miscellaneous treasures. Zhou was quite satisfied with this. Then, he looked down at the battlefield. Chapter 1065. Overwhelming force on the battlefield. The scales of victory on the battlefield had already tilted to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's side with an overwhelming advantage. The most important reason was naturally the order that Zhou had just given to the enemy to counterattack from within the Insight defection. There were more than 160 billion soldiers, more than 1,500 god spirits, and a total of 11 true god tier after all. Half of the soldiers and god spirits instantly became the enemies of their comrades. Moreover, in the blink of an eye, they counterattacked their comrades. How could they react? Even those true god tier existences were affected by this sudden change. As for the Shadow Clan's alliance army, they had also lost a third of their remaining soldiers and god spirits in less than half an hour because of this sudden internal betrayal. After that, this group of Shadow Clan allied army soldiers and god spirits reacted. Faced with the internal strife of their own people, and the attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers and god spirits outside, how could they, who had already fallen into a huge military disadvantage and a god spirit disadvantage, still withstand it? In less than a moment, they were at an absolute disadvantage and had no chance of turning the tables. The Shadow Clan's true god, Jakro, couldn't help but feel grief, indignation, and despair when he saw the Shadow Clan's army struggling to resist. In the current situation, he really had no way of saving him. If the Patriarch can kill that common people's regal in his lifeless shadow realm, we might still have a chance to salvage the situation. Jakro suddenly had this thought. As Ace's most trusted brother, the #1 true god tier of the Shadow Tribe, he naturally knew that Aces had a Master God tier level trump card. However, the conditions for using that trump card seemed to be a little harsh, so Aces had always kept it a secret. If Aces dared to use that Master God tier trump card to kill that common people's regal, they would definitely have a chance to turn the tables. Moreover, the Shadow Clan would also receive the recognition of countless top races and super experts in the future because of this matter. They might have a chance to reach the heavens in a single step. Just as Jakro held the last hope in his heart, a loud explosion suddenly sounded in the sky. Then the shadows of 2 god spirits flashed and disappeared. In a short period of time, they opened up a new combat world and disappeared. Even though this period of time was extremely short, Jakro still saw some clues. Their Patriarch's lifeless shadow world seemed to have been destroyed by the other party, before he had no choice but to reveal himself. This common people's regal dares to use the power of a true god tier in the high continent unscrupulously, just because his true strength is only low-tier deity level intermediate grade. As for true gods, they have to be restricted by the agreement, and cannot use their powers freely in the high continent. True god tiers like us are actually subjected to greater restrictions than a low-tier deity level god spirit like him. Jakro couldn't help but feel aggrieved when he saw his Patriarch take the initiative to create a combat world. However, he was also shocked by the strength of the common people's regal at the same time. To be able to forcefully blow up the lifeless shadow realm in Isis' lifeless shadow realm, this meant that the other party's strength had definitely crushed the Patriarch of their Shadow Clan. If Aces didn't use any trump cards, he would probably die without a doubt. Patriarch, oh Patriarch, now is not the time to hide. Hurry up and take out your trump card to destroy this arrogant common people's regal. Jakro thought silently. He had absolute confidence in the Master God tier trump card that Aces had. He didn't believe that even if the Lord of the common people's regal could be ahead of many lords of the myriad races, could he still be ahead of the veteran races that had managed their races for countless years? Even Emperor Pangu, who was known to be invincible among true god tier experts back then, did not have that confidence. Unless the other party also had a Master God tier trump card. But how could that be? What kind of luck did the common people's regal have to be able to obtain a Master God tier treasure in such a short period of time? The legendary luck and the luck of the true god tier of drama were not that ridiculous. But in the next moment, a spatial crack appeared in the sky. A figure took a step forward and looked down at the battlefield below. He wore the Emperor Dragon robe and had the regal Sage Dao sword at his waist. His aura was supreme. His pitch-black eyes looked at the 2 sides fighting below, as if he was the ruler of the world watching the battle between the life forms of the lower realm. It was the common people's regal, Zhou. Jakro stared at him blankly. He actually walked out of the warring world created by Aces so easily without any injuries? Then wouldn't our Patriarch be? He didn't dare to think further. A majestic voice descended from the sky and resounded in the hearts of every soldier and god spirit on both sides of the battle. Shadow Race Patriarch, Aces has been killed by our common people's regal. Why aren't you surrendering? Otherwise, do you want to follow him to the netherworld of the dead? The soldiers and god spirits were stunned. Then they looked up. Zhou was flying high in the sky, holding a token that emitted a shadow aura. This was the Shadow Divine token that only the Shadow Clan Patriarch could possess. The Shadow Clan soldiers and the Alliance soldiers looked at this token helplessly and anxiously. They could not help but feel that it was ridiculous. According to those big shots, Shouldn't their role in this battle be the absolute advantage? Why was he not only at an absolute disadvantage in terms of ordinary soldiers and god spirits? Even the leader of this battle was dead. What was the point of fighting then? Realizing this, the morale of the soldiers and gods fell to the lowest point. Among them, Jacro's divine body trembled as he looked at Zhou, and the divine shadow token in his hand. Brother, why? He was sad. He was crying, and he was in despair. However, he was not afraid. In fact, the desire to tear common people's regal apart was more than 1,000,000 times stronger. Kill them all. If I see a soldier, general, or even a god spirit taking a step back or even surrendering, forget about Zhou. I'll kill all of you first. Let's see if he will protect you faster, or if I will kill you faster. Recalling his tens of thousands of years of friendship with Aces, and the trustworthy face that the other party had given him before he left, Jacro went completely crazy. Perhaps his elder brother already knew that he might not return this time. So he handed him the Shadow Divine token that only the Patriarch could grasp and asked him to command all the Shadow Clan members and soldiers before he left. Common people's regal. I'll kill you. He gritted his teeth in his heart. All the Shadow Clan and Alliance soldiers couldn't help but shiver when they heard this true god tier's words. They were indeed afraid of the common people's regal, but they were more afraid of Jacro, who could take their lives faster. Under the fear of death, they could only do their best to resist the attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom's soldiers that were like a vast ocean. High up in the sky, Zhou also saw the scene. A man at the end of his rope. It's just an act of fighting a cornered beast. The ending won't change. He shook his head. He, who was familiar with the other party's information, naturally knew that the Shadow Clan did not have any other threatening trump cards other than the great lunar stone sculpture. As for the other true god tiers of the people of foreign races who came to help, Zhou did not know if they had any master god tier trump cards. However, looking at these true god tiers, they still looked like they were desperately resisting, but were helpless. There was a high chance that they did not. They would have long used it if they had any. Then, he looked at the Yellow Emperor and company. I'll give you another surprise that we agreed on yesterday. He smiled. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.